Greetings all. You were blessed to hear a class from the Master Teacher Dr. Malachi KZ York, obviously spanning, so I think 60 years now, isn't it? So from 1963, we are now in obviously 2023. So if my maths is correct, I think it's 60 years. Someone correct me in the chat if that's not correct. So we've covered a wide range of subjects across obviously a large span of areas over and underneath the sun. I'm just going to turn this music down just a little bit on that side of things. So hopefully you can hear me clearly in the chat. If not, please put some comments in there to feedback. So if you're joining us on Facebook Live, welcome, and those of you on the Zoom platform, welcome. Just sorting out a few last little bits and pieces, but say probably more. We will be playing excerpts from different classes. Obviously, the master teacher at the moment, currently incarcerated, since May 8th, 2002. And I think it's important, in the battle that we fight for our souls, for our ascension journey, for who we are as a people, as opposed to what we became, by way of various things that have been done to us over the last 6,000 years, but obviously in the last 400 more acutely, to transform ourselves from mortals back into deities again, and be in the image and after likeness of our ancestors, who the Egyptians referred to as the Pa Natharu. We say in the upgraded tones in this day and time, translates into English as overseers, who are suns. So the sun that we see 93 million miles away, for example, which referred to as the sun or our sun, would be the depiction of our ancestors. Do you understand? Us being their terrestrial descendants, or descended down from that gaseous state, of course, which the sun is in that state as we see it in outer space. And of course, we are their descendants or their children. So we descended down from that gaseous state, hence why we refer to as their descendants. And we are the terrestrial representation of the sun, having a solar plexus, which is obviously fired up by one breathing through their nose correctly and out through their mouth. Do you understand? Breathing in through the mouth and out through the mouth was considered bestiality to us as etheric beings. You understand? And obviously now, things that, say, the master teachers taught many decades ago, now today they talk about in health, in the health context, in this day and time, the Western Hemisphere in particularly, the Mukasu or the Caucasian now talks about the benefits of nose breathing. Do you understand? So breathing through the mouth, in through the mouth and out through the mouth. Do you understand? That's how dogs breathe. You understand? Panting. In that context, but obviously your nose, as the original pyramid, is the filter obviously for all germs, etc. And so when the air comes into the body, technically speaking, you're not inhaling disease. You need to put the air through a filter before you bring it down obviously into your organs and vital systems within your body to avoid germs, etc., or negative germs entering into the body in a way that you're not doing on purpose. Understood? So this is important, and as I see a wide range of teachings. They span across 60 years, and that was in the school of Islam, in that context. But we're doing the proof today. Part 18, I think we're at. Right, Nabab Jadefre Hatat, but thank you, Tawatak, for holding the fort for first hour. So we're getting to where we were before. We were dealing with epigenetics and having some discussions in and around that. We should be finished in that subject area today, and we'll progress, I think, next week to a similar, in the same wheelhouse, but in another section of this book referred to as the proof by way of Pa Nabab Yaanuwn, or for short, the proof. So we'll be touching on that in another subject or another area of subjects a little bit next week when we have the class next Sunday. So let's get on to what we want to speak about today with a short introduction. So if you just join us for the first time, we are the United Sabians worldwide, and this class is being brought to you by All Eyes on Egypt, Midlands and the North, as a section within that nation. And I say, my name is Nabab Hess. I'm a student teacher of the master teacher, Dr. Malachi KZ York, and I'll do my best, as I say, to deliver the class and answer your questions today. So it is an interactive class. Just for time, I won't run the visuals. Obviously, been on for a while, so assume that's working unless you tell me otherwise in the chat area. So let's get into a little bit of an introduction and then crack on with what we need to talk about today. But in the first instance, we're just going to do something from the culture. So if you just join us for the first time, don't be alarmed. I think it's important for us to. One of the things that our master teachers brought us was the reinstatement of our culture in this day and time, and so that means holistically, not only our dress, our look. Obviously on into, importantly, the language, but what is key for us really is the reconnection, what was destroyed, I suppose, in the context of various cultures invading, whether it's our territory or invading our genes, and the manipulation, I suppose, of our mind to have us as the new sort of, well, I'm saying new, but the creation of the fake kind of hybrid, the Negro, when our genes were intercepted 400 years ago through the kidnapping of our people out of their lands, brought over here to the West, and then maybe in a less aggressive way, migration from Africa, from the sort of Caribbean islands, etc., and coming over here, but yet finding ourselves in taught that we were here to come to the land of sort of milk and honey, and when we got here, the milk was sour and there was no honey. You understand? So we were treated, terribly in that context, and the way to get along was to, I suppose, be a black person who lived. Or became more assimilated and became more or Caucasian in that regard. Do you understand? That was the best way to get along, to survive, and in some cases marry in, etc., etc. And no one's saying that you shouldn't assimilate the culture of a country, language, etc., in order to sort of fit in. There's nothing wrong with that in that context. But the problem is for us with the perpetuation of racism and other adverse treatment in that regard, coming from that 400-year invasion in our genetics, you started to create this fake being. So you're a person who looks black but thinks and protects. That's another important point. Protects them. Do you understand? So the Negro, tied into the sort of Latin word for necra, you understand, dead. So we were mentally dead, and as our culture was being erased and the link to our ancestors was being erased, it left us open now for those that true connection, the real connection, the actual facts connection. Do you understand? That which we knew not was replaced with belief and faith, and our God was replaced, i.e., understanding that the true deity to us is first our mother and father, you understand, and our higher deity to us is the sun, or suns, stars that you see in the sky. Understood? That was our esoteric connection, you understand, and our physical God is that which gave us life. You understand? Many people use the word creator and all these different terminologies, etc., and actually we ignore the actual facts that are right in front of us. That which gave us life, or who gave us life, is our mother and father, whether we know who they are or not. Those are the rules of natural nature, you understand? And the sustainer to us of life here on this planet is not only the planet Earth itself and its important role that it plays in the sand, which it in and of itself is a offshoot from the sun. You understand? A child of the sun in and of itself. You understand? This is why we refer to this set of 9 planets rotating the sun as the solar system. You understand? So the planets are part of the sun. That's why we refer to it as a solar system. So that which sustains us and gives us life is not only the planet, as a child of the sun, but in more importantly, the sun itself. In the sandwich, obviously, we would not be here if the sun did not give birth to us, understood, and this environment was set, as I say, or perfected for our life form to come out of the waters and to flourish in this environment. So, as I say, it's important to say that in terms of the restoration of our culture, and obviously that starts with the language and the correct tones. Yeah, so we're going to start with a cultural aspect, which is Partakyud, the affirmation. In that context, so let's play it for you so you can hear sort of male and females coming together. I think I said unison last week. What I meant was harmony. Yeah, so it's important, as I say, that in terms of our ascension journey, that we get back into the correct tones, realigning ourselves with natural nature, and speaking the language helps us, obviously, to do that. And the many rituals that you may partake in and on a daily basis, which is a form really of spiritual aerobics. So it's designed, obviously, to strengthen, understood, your inner being. Because obviously the physical life as we have it today, very important and precious, but it's not the end for us. It's simply a doorway to other states and levels of existence if we choose to move on, or are able, let's say, having passed this degree, to the next stage of existence, which I think was touched upon in the class. But one has to perfect their being in order to be strong enough, as you needed to be strong enough to make it into this world, as you need to be strong enough in terms of other levels of existence. And obviously the opportunity being here as an esoteric or etheric being and a physical being, you have the ability to strengthen your etheric being whilst here in the physical. Within the obviously opposite context, you can deplete your etheric being also, which leaves you vulnerable at the point of death to be utilized by forces that are not of your own ancestral bloodline. Okay, so let's find that audio and kick in. While I'm looking for that, any questions?
No questions.
Okay.
Nabab, Nadar, Muqtar, Naut, Muqdad, Badet, Patah, Naut, Mukhlas, Badet, Yaanuwn.
Partakyud.
Anuki, Jawef, Ashuk, Hem, Paut, Wukalal, Ashuk, Kawun, Jawef, Neya, Anuki, Kasam, Em, Paut, Paut, Kawun, Kasam, Em, Neya, Anuki wahu amet paut, paut kawun wahu amet neya, nakuk kador najuk amet kasam em paut, Wu-Sabat amet mushkhasum, nakuk kador kawan kalal pafaf nakuk arod jawef paut. Ame waset ame aratni kawun laye bakoy jawef paut. Anuki abed leye nafashni paut kawun anuki paut kador nakuk kador paut amul nakuk amul.
Okay, so that was Partakyud. Let's translate it back for you, just so you can see what was being said. So, holy, 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 Master, Overseer, Almighty, no God except Ptah, no deity except Yaanuwn. So Ptah is the head of the nine, obviously one of our ancestors, and his name or the principle means the opener. Obviously, as you can see there phonetically, this is where the Western society or the Caucasians got the name Peter from. Do you understand? But it's actually Ptah, yeah, the opener, and the head of the nine, in the, I suppose, the nine deities or scientists responsible for this version, as I say, of physical creation. Do you understand? And obviously a place for us to express ourselves mentally. Yeah, so obviously the three things needed for existence are space, matter, and time. Do you understand? And time in and of itself, for those who've been following these classes for the last 18 parts, is synonymous with mind. Do you understand? So the mind, or us as mind, or our individual mind, in the rules and things, needs a space to express itself coming forward. So it's important, as I say, that we understand that there's existence, do you understand, before creation. Do you understand? Existence is important, and this is what you're learning, I suppose, in this affirmation when you're dealing with Pa'ut, or the all expanding. Yeah. So no savior except Yaanuwn. So Yaanuwn considered one of the 19th elders in the 24 elders, and to say 19th becomes the 25th, yeah, on earth. So if you imagine sort of 24 points or elders around a throne, so imagine an hourglass, yeah, type structure. Understood? So you've got above, yeah, you've got a center or an access point, and then you've got the same structure obviously on the bottom. So it's many, yeah, so into one to then teach back out many again. Understood? So in the context of us, when you say savior, it's not saving to use something later. It's obviously saving us from the pathway of self-destruction that our people find ourselves in, being tricked, fooled, under a spell, which has various different iterations throughout the ages. In this day and time, and obviously this has led, one of those was the spell of amnesia, leading to obviously an absence of culture, absence of knowing, obviously replaced with faith, belief, and mythology, in a sense, taking us away from the reality not only of who we are, but the importance of the environments that we find ourselves in a sense, being spiritually ignorant and racially blind, in a sense, so not knowing how the rules of natural nature work, the environments that we find are in the planet itself, and obviously, of course, much wider, and not knowing who the enemy is or the evil one is in the many forms in which they find ourselves in. Do you understand? And part of that spell, which has been broken, was us obviously constrained in this in the monotheistic religions, not understanding even in those schools or ideologies, you understand, that the devil is God and God is the devil. Do you understand? In the actuality, they're one and the same being, yeah, which we've been caught in. So you blame one, you understand, obviously give praise or whatever to the other, and they're one and the same being, to us anyway. Do you understand? So those books did not exist, in the sand, in the many millions of years ago that we've been around, and they don't purport to tell us about the origins of life. You understand? Man has put his own spin on it, to say what those books mean and its connection to a higher power, so on and so forth. Do you understand? But obviously in our context, you've been equipped with the connection that takes you all the way back to the very origin of things, before there was time. You understand? So and before there was motion. So in order to have time, you have to have motion. Understood? If you reverse the word time, you get the word emit. Understood? So there needs to be a motion. So we come from a time or the world of things before time and before motion. You understand? And so we're seeing these classes, you're slowly seeing how things maybe, for lack of a better word, are sequenced. Yeah, but there's a point where there is no time, there is no origin or beginning when you talk about in relation to us, and this is what you have to sort of unravel in one's mind because of bad information or way you've been taught and raised in this society, which has permeated around the world. Many of the secrets that our ancestors knew as part of our way of life have been lost. So the term Saviour is correct because you're talking about, as I say, a being that has come along, whether we want to give credit or not credit, that has addressed the issue that we were facing. Do you understand? That's why the name Doctor, I say Malachi KZ York, because the word doctor from the Latin word docere means to teach, but a doctor's coming to cure something. Do you understand? And obviously, we didn't even know that we were sick. We obviously know about racism and its impact on us, this generational impact on us, which we've been learning about in terms of the epigenetic, in terms of epigenetics, understood. But there's certainly the work of many secret societies throughout the ages, and the spell that was cast upon us, as say through their religion called Wicca, by way of the Celtics, was unknown to us, and still unknown to many today. Do you understand? Of the subliminals that are actually placed amongst us. Anyway, falsehood, the affirmation. So we say, I'm inside the divine love of the all expanding. Yep. And all divine love is inside me. I am a part of the all expanding, and the all expanding is a part of me. I am one as the all expanding, and the all expanding is one as me. I can succeed as a part of the all expanding and fail as an individual person. Do you understand? I can be all that I wish in the all expanding, as long as my wish is to stay in the all expanding. So imagine in this context, the state of perfection for us, and the reason why you get 24,000 times or more to incarnate and perfect your being is because perfection, or definition of it, is when intention, understood, and action, they match. Yeah, so in everything that you do, when your intention and your action match, very difficult thing to achieve. Clearly, why there's so many opportunities to go back and take the class, earthly class, again, at least for us, in most instances. So that direction or lack of ambiguity, yes, that our desire in us is to reach that state where we're simply serving the purpose of, well, in this case, growth or life, do you understand, or existence, where we're there to serve that, is obviously a journey that we obviously seek to go through and reach a point with many different experiences to be able to be in that position at some point willingly. You understand? So we make that choice, obviously, for ourselves, and our behavior, reflects that. So it said, I'm never by myself. Yeah, so important that you understand, what your ancestors are. Obviously, you have physical ancestors. In Sabaic, they use the term muslafu. You understand? Your physical ancestors, relatives, obviously, who are alive, they use the term nasabu. And obviously, our higher ancestors, we use the term Natharu, you understand, as overseers in that context. So many sources to call upon for assistance in certain situations, you understand? So if it's to do with yourself, something that affects you personally in your life, then you would call upon your blood relatives who are no longer physical, your ancestors, do you understand? I.e. your great-grandmother, great-grandfather, so on and so forth, if they're no longer obviously alive, because they're in your bloodstream, do you understand? Up to 4 generations. So this is who you call upon for that help in your sort of daily life that pertains to you, do you Do you understand? When it's for a wider purpose, do you understand? Maybe affecting or serving others, protecting the environment, then we would call upon our higher ancestors by way of our Salafu. So particularly your female line, because the lineage obviously goes through the female line only by way of mitochondrial DNA. So obviously you're the eldest female, like your great grandmother, you understand, is the protector of your obviously genetic line. So you call upon her obviously first for protection, but they provide a gateway, or they are the router. So all of us are on some kind of internet connection. If they're joining the class today, if you're not phoned in, and they act as a router to make sure that when we direct our energy, it goes to the right place. So that's the part of their purpose. Do you understand? So this is why we don't call upon generic names. Yes. So even you might see in the language there, maybe the term gadad, for example, dad, I think in language there, yeah, dad or dad, yeah. So, but if you just said that term, yeah, well, which God are you talking about? Do you understand? Many people use the same terminology and mean completely different things. Do you understand? So it's important. Names, obviously, which are tones, provide not only a connection, but you need to ensure you're calling upon the right person. So that's our router. Do you understand? That's what kind of our ancestors help us to make sure that's part of their purpose, to make sure any requests that obviously are going beyond them are directed to the right source, obviously linked to us. Do you understand? So we're never alone, even though certain times in life it can feel like it's on top. Do you understand? The world, I've got the world on my shoulders, and that's that kind of tunnel vision, that can lead to many serious consequences sometimes when we might find ourselves in a problem. So sometimes you have to think, well, what are the parameters? Is this a life or death situation? Do you understand? So sometimes a lot of things are not life and death, and if we just reframe our thinking, it might be a source of embarrassment or something's happened or whatever, but it's not going to lead to our death. But obviously life and death situations, you obviously got to think through, if possible. Do you understand? Think through, how can I get myself out of this situation, etc. And calling upon or mastering the power to call upon your ancestors is ensuring that you're not limping in the Olympics. Do you understand? That you're using all of the things available to you to help solve your problems. Do you understand? Not when you're just in difficulty, but an everyday thing. Do you understand? This is part of our culture, which the Mukasu quite happily, as part of their plan, wanted to separate you from not only your language and your tones, but anything that, I say, allows you to call upon any esoteric force, as I say, or spiritual power, you understand, that they did not give you. You understand? So what happens is they're redirecting your energy, your power, yes, into them. You understand? Because when you peel back who is the Wizard of Oz, or the God sitting on the throne that you've been taught about, because when somebody says to you, who's your mother? If you know who your mother is, you've got a clear image in your head. Somebody asks you who your brother is, you've got a clear image in your head. Somebody asks you who your uncle is, and your uncles, if you've got uncles, clear image in your head. Auntie, clear image. Someone says God, Allah, Yahweh, the Most High, no image. You understand? So it's not a vivid image when it comes to the divine. It's a vague image, vivid being associated with, in the sound as they use in their terminology, God or deity, and then vague being associated with the devil. Do you understand? So things that are vivid, factual, and stuff that that you can stand on, you understand, that gives you confidence, doesn't it? It gives you a strong mentor, strong foundation to build from. Do you understand? Much more difficult to have that when you're dealing with faith, belief, etc., etc., and lies. You understand? There's a different, obviously, type of energy associated with that. So important to understand you're not by yourself. But obviously, I think in Master Secrets, number 1. It says you're not in this, our ancestors in terms of speaking to us, or the Panatharu speaking to us, state that, you know, you're not in this position. So they understand, obviously, the attack, continuous attack from the Mukasu or the Caucasian for the last 6,000 or so years that has halted our progression. We should be much further along as a people, as a planet, than what we should be now. You understand? Given 24 tasks to master, mastery of the human genome, time travel, certain things, that mastery of the physical body. So there were certain things that we were supposed to master within this last 24,000 year cycle. We've now moved into another or new, the first 1,000 years of a new 24,000 year cycle, but we were hindered and continue to be hindered by the Caucasian. However, their statement is that they're saying you're not in this situation for what you have done, but for rather for what you have failed to do. So our lack of application, or in instances for those who have been in the know, or those not in the know for ignorance, then our lack of ability to develop ourselves in the way of Wu-Sabat, or our spiritual science, to become 720, in a saying, 360-degree mastery of the physical, 360-degree mastery of the esoteric or the spiritual, to become 720 again, operating obviously as a whole being, has kept us stagnated, you understand, because unable to defeat our enemies in a lot of instances. And as we've been expressing in this class, you know, in terms of this sort of ether levels, you know, 9 ether, we know is related to us, the strongest power or force in the universe, combination of all existing gases within nature, within existence. And you have this obviously corresponding opposite, 6 ether, which is 9 ether in death, you understand, and obviously 1 reflects, or 9 reflects creation, growth, you understand, self-preservation, while the other obviously is what causes things to decay, do you understand, represents death, destruction, do you understand, which is destruction is change in form or composition in Wu-Sabat. Creation is growth into form or system. So the decaying part is that 6 ether force, and 6 ether is not of our ancestry. 7, 8, you understand, and 9 ether will always be of our ancestry, you understand, but 6 and below will not. So there's obviously, they're the only force or source of power, as we see from this explanation here. I'm never by myself. The all expanding is, I am. The all expanding can, I can. The all expanding does, I do. Do you understand? So we're there from the very origin of things. We are part of it. That is us. Do you understand? There's no power that arises outside of us. You understand? There's no power outside of the all expanding or Papa. However, being in this particular skin suit, our energy, you understand, can be redirected to wrong places if we get tricked, you understand. And so I think as Master Teacher said in, I think, Millennium Part 1, yeah, the very secret societies, you understand, of the Brotherhood, or the White Brotherhood, let's refer to it in that context, are the eclipse of the Sun of Righteousness. So as we're obviously seeking to get the 9 ether force from our ancestors, you understand, and connecting to the frequency of the spiritual science of the Nagara, referred to as Wu-Sabat, yeah, there are forces blocking, you understand, either the frequency holistically or the quality of our connection, overstood, and that's what keeps us weak in that context. Yeah, so a bit of a deeper explanation of that, just for somebody who just joined us for the first time. Any questions?
Yes, there are a couple of questions. The first question is from Judith, and the question says, so Qatar created our physical existence or the physical realm period?
So within the mental of what is referred to as Papa, or the all expanding, within the mind of all, you have various different, I use the word strain, but strands, let's say, of existence. This one is referred to as Hu He. So Hu He is the mental plan that formulates physical existence. Ta, with the 9 others, then help to formulate that physical existence into what we see today. So responsible not only for the creation of us, but the 9 locations or places or spaces, do you understand, for us to be able to occupy. So it's based upon obviously the 99 elements that you see, obviously, that make up what is referred to as physical existence. Now to us, they're not only principles, those 99. So in Western society, for example, they name them after, some of them are named after people, aren't they? Like 99th elements named after Einsteinium. Do you understand? Our 99 elements, or the 99 elements that make up physical existence, are named after various ancestors, do you understand, who to us are scientists. So they are the scientists responsible, obviously, for they are the scientists responsible for the creation of those elements that have led to, as I say, what we are referring to as the physical existence here. So our space or environment for our life form was optimized by the original 9, do you understand, which Ptah is the head of, do you understand, as the, hence having the term the opener, do you understand, in that regard. So that's the difference between the two. So Hu He is the mental plan, which is referred to, so it all starts with the mind, is the mental plan, but then within existence, those elements have to be manipulated, formulated to shape, for lack of a better word, this environment. And so, as I say, you've got a process of that, or they are the head of, or the structure is referred to as the 9. You understand, which Ta is responsible not only for our creation, but then the physical environment that is optimized for us to exist within. Yeah. If it's not clear, please ask further questions. Any more questions?
Yes, there's another question from Judith. So one's intention must match one's actions, which is not easy to do.
Yeah, I think we gave an example in one of the previous classes. So in London or UK at the moment, you've sort of got a knife crime epidemic. So a lot of people being stabbed. So let's say, for example, this may sound a little bit harsh, but this is the type of stuff we're talking about. So let's say, I don't know, somebody's son gets killed, you understand, by way of knife crime. And a grieving mother then sets up an organization, for example, to, you understand, promote, you understand, non-violent resolution, for example, amongst teenagers or youth, so that nobody has to suffer the pain that her and her family have gone through as a result of that crime or loss. Now, in the context of that, you've got actions which are correct, do you understand? But the intention is not correct, because the purity of it will say, well, when your son got killed, that's when you then set up the organization. If the purity of it would say, okay, well, if the intention was correct, then you would have set up that organization regardless. Do you understand? But you cared about it when it affected you in that context. Same thing like somebody, when their family gets cancer, now people are interested in cancer. Do you understand? But prior to that, were they interested in actions to prevent cancer? So this is where you get, one may say, imperfect actions, because the intention is not absolutely pure. I'm not saying it's, people might say, well, let's make a lot of excuses, and it might sound quite cold. We'll just explain to you that literally, you understand, when you're dealing with things pertaining to existence, you understand, birth and deaths of galaxies, you understand, you're dealing with entities, huge, powerful entities like the sun. The decision making there has to be, do you understand, non-biased, do you understand? Has to be what's best for the whole, and what's best for the whole or what's best for existence is not always what's best for individuals, you understand? And to be on point, to make that kind of decision making, to sustain, you understand, billions, trillions, you understand, infinite amount of life forms or whatever. You have to be of a certain level of thinking. So perfection for us, in our journey to be supreme beings, then these are the challenges that we face, you understand? So it can take many times to achieve this state of perfection. It may not be in this lifetime. It may reach a certain level which allows you to elevate, and as you elevate, the journey continues. Do you understand? So this is why you find, I think as we talk about, I'll give this example so much, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but it's important. So as I say, you have a very different life in the UK. If you go to university, so and you get a certain grade against your degree, I think it goes 2, so it obviously fail, but it goes 2-2, 2-1, and then you get a first. Understood? So you have a very different life if you get a 2-2 versus the highest grade, which is the first. Now, another number of things play into that. Obviously, type of degree, so on and so forth. But the grade is important. So some people might decide, you understand, at the point of death, if they get a choice, they might say, well, listen, in terms of your rating, and I'm speaking symbolically here, they got a 2-2. But that might mean that the next level of growth or existence, it's going to be difficult, because their strength level, for example, or how they perfected themselves in this life is not optimum maybe for the next one. So they might say, okay, well, let me go back again, do you understand, and get a better grade before I decide that I'm going to choose elevation, do you understand, to the next level of existence. So people will come back now knowing in that context. But obviously when you're born in again into your same bloodline, obviously because you don't have the exact same body, those memories in that context are not necessarily transferred into your new life, do you understand? So you're sort of starting from I'll say not scratch, but you're obviously you haven't got the benefit necessarily of looking at all the mistakes that you made in your previous life, because obviously those memories are stored in your genetics, do you understand? And obviously that is stored within one's genes, and so when your soul obviously comes back and reincarnates into a different body, you don't have the same spirit, you understand, or genes, etc. So you're not carrying forward necessarily, you're carrying forward experiences, but not necessarily the personality, do you understand, that aspect of things in terms of those memories, which obviously are stored in one's body. Any other questions?
Yes, this next question from Judith actually, I think, illustrates a point that you made just a couple of minutes ago. And the question goes, what if the person never thought of that point of the matter?
Sorry, the point of, am I understanding correctly, the point of around the intention are we talking about?
Yes, that's how I understand the question, yes.
So I mean, it doesn't really matter, isn't it? Because they wouldn't have been aware. This is the problem, isn't it? So part of the spell was spiritual ignorance, isn't it? You're not aware of how the rules work. So, and then what the aim or the intention or the goal is when you're born, what it is that you must achieve whilst you're here. So if somebody doesn't teach you, the reality of the situation is it's a cold world, isn't it? So the rules are the rules, and if the circumstances are right, then the result happens irrespective of whether you want it to happen or not, isn't it? This is why, as I say, rapists can get a person pregnant, do you understand? Now, obviously, that's a violation, obviously, of the rules, but it can happen, isn't it? So whether you're ignorant, you understand, whether you want it to happen, etc., these rules get triggered irrespective, you understand? There's not no emotion in there, because you're living in an environment that is how can I say, it's self-sustaining, do you understand? The rules are built in order to make it work, not in the most efficient way, but there's no being sitting over every situation and enforcing whether a decision should go ahead or not. So the rules and some of the consequences for breaking those rules are built into the system. And it's a simple thing of this: either you've got the relevant strength, or you've achieved a certain level to advance, or you haven't. Do you understand? So so in that context, people may have to redo things. So this is what we have to learn. Now, some people know the rules, but then don't share them, and then use it in a way where they will exploit others, for their own benefit or for their self-preservation. Do you understand? And that's the nature of, certain races that live off of the strength of others. Do you understand? So it's in their benefit to keep you ignorant, so that, as I say, you don't advance. You don't know what the state of perfection is. So at the point of death, if you're not ready to elevate, obviously they can take, if you have a soul, they can take that. Do you understand? Or your soul, or you die in fear, for example, then you may end up in the lower ether ranges, where you can be utilized as an etheric battery for those 6 ether forces, as I say, to sustain themselves, because they work off of, or are fed off of, or sustain themselves off of, you understand, living entities. Do you understand? So this is the science of religion, as opposed to the art of it. Is that the dead must subsist off of the living. Do you understand? And religion provides the mechanism in order to do that. So exploitation, do you understand, of the energy emotion, or your emotions, to feed those dead or lower forces. Yeah. So whether you are aware or not, you still, the consequences, you can still suffer the negative consequences for not knowing. Hence why they send a teacher in, or teachers, you understand, or master teachers across the ages, to teach you what you need to know as a race of people, in order to emulate them as their children. Do you understand? And create a clear pathway for your growth. Do you understand? However, others, seemingly threatened by that, will seek to stop that information coming your way, because they perceive that your growth, it will be at their detriment. Next question. Any other questions?
Yes, actually, Judith just makes a point and says that ignorance of the law or rules is no excuse, comes from it.
Yeah, ignorance means to ignore the facts. So whether you do it intentionally or unintentionally, the result is still the same. Do you understand? So, I say there's not some outside force that's sitting there that's gonna, walk you through, or because, well, she didn't really mean it, or he didn't really mean it, so therefore, in some instances, if there's a point where somebody's being judged for it, then those things can be taken into account and factored in. But as I say, just to give another example, if you kill a person with your car, or you take a gun and you shoot the person, do you understand? Now, if you kill a person with a car and it was an accident, you didn't intend to kill them, but you understand? They're dead. Yeah, so if you shoot someone with a gun, you may have intended to kill them, and they're dead. Now, the punishment for the two incidents may be different. What I'm saying is the result is still the same. You still cause a loss of life. Do you understand? So where rules get triggered, they're triggered. So the key for us is not to be ignorant. And so we have to be in the know. Now, whether we achieve that in our generation or in future generations to get ourselves out of this state, then that's what we have to understand. We must become in the know again. Do you understand? Ignorance has to be destroyed, because it's one of the forces, it's one of the attributes or behaviors or states, that feeds the forces, our ignorance. So if we know or we are connected, then I think, as it was touched upon when the master teacher was teaching earlier, you would have to willfully put yourself in that position. Do you understand? As opposed to you doing it by way of ignorance. So the fair situation, or what at least down the Tharu, want to create is that you have a fair opportunity to make those decisions. You understand? So if you choose to a decision that maybe has a negative result for you or for your bloodline or whatever the case may be, then you've made that knowingly. You haven't made that for ignorance. You haven't made it because you were tricked, you were fooled. You understand? In that regard. So that's where the fairness comes in, or the test of at the moment of who is who. Do you understand? Do you want to be in the image and after likeness of your ancestors and follow the preservation path that is your genetic right, or do you want to follow down the path of self-destruction? Do you understand? Because we love the ways of the West and this world or whatever, in that regard. And it's hard to do. It's not like it's easy to do. You understand? This is why even incarnated masters did not want to come down. So incarnated masters did not want to stay in the physical body for any long period of time, because you can get caught up here. Do you understand? And even our ancestors, the Panatharu, do not descend down to the physical plane. Do you understand? They come down to four, the mental planes. You go physical plane, plane of force, spiritual plane, and mental plane at 4. So in order to meet them, we would have to elevate up to 4. Do you understand? Rise our vibrational level up to meet them mental to mental. Do you understand? We start to break out of the world of nouns, for example. Do you understand? So the mental's at 4, so they won't even come down to physical. So if it was easy, well, it was at one time easy when there wasn't other races around. Do you understand? So we didn't have conflicting agendas. And now inside of us conflicting genes. So yeah, unfortunately, ignorance is not bliss. Understand? Yeah, it can be maybe short-term bliss, but long-term is detrimental for us. So yeah, intention and action must match. So you have a lot of imperfect actions if you really think about it. Yeah, a lot of imperfect actions, even though the result may be positive, do you understand? Or the result may be negative, do you understand? Somebody, for example, you could argue, I'll leave that one. But you understand, you have a lot of imperfect actions, let's say. Any other questions before we move on?
This is from Munazat, I think. It says, I couldn't hear at the time. What is the consequence for accidentally versus intentionally? I think that's something, a point you just made. Intentionally taking a life. And what is the rule, consequence around suicide, if any?
So basically, obviously, if you didn't intend to kill yourself, then it wouldn't be judged, I suppose, as in terms of context suicide. If you didn't intend to kill yourself, so some people may do it for attention seeking, in some cases maybe sick or whatever the case may be, and it ends up being a result, but they didn't really intend to do it. Do you understand? So you took the pills, hoping somebody would find you, for example, and whatever, maybe you thought somebody was coming home at a certain time and they were delayed, didn't get home, and they found you and they're dead. Do you understand? So you wouldn't be judged the same way as somebody who willfully took their life. Obviously, the consequences of taking a life to prevent people from doing it, are fairly significant and serious. So it can involve experiencing the decision over and over again, do you understand? And then reincarnating in the different lives affected by the decision. So if you murder, for example, another human being, you would incarnate and be the mother, for example, who loses a son, a father who loses a son. Do you understand? That maybe the child, or be in the mind of the victim. Do you understand? So living that over and over again. So until you go and experience all of the different permutations, do you understand, of how that death affected the people around you, that would be something that you'd have to go through. This is why, as I say, and it affects even soldiers and people of that nature. So those would be some of the rules or the consequences arising from taking life. I think in one of the books, I think it's Man from Planet Risk, talk about higher beings who have incarnated. If you were to point a gun at them, for example, they would rather let you shoot them than them taking action basically to kill you. So, and that's because they understand the rules, or getting caught up at least in the rules surrounding taking a life, and then you're locked in obviously for a certain period of time to go through, you understand, all these different experiences. So you're locked in for a minute. So in order to avoid that, I'll shoot you and then I'll reincarnate again, or do you understand? I'm not going to be subject to that, because let's say they're going to move on by way of existence. They're not going to necessarily, the physical life is lost, of course, but the soul or whatever will obviously move on if they have a soul. So that a higher being who understands that would rather let you shoot them than be caught up in being, as I say, the recipient of the rules being exacted in that regard. Do you understand? So it doesn't matter, say, whether you kill somebody for justifiable reasons, as you may see it. You understand? I.e., somebody burgled the house. Do you understand? They was going to kill my children. Blah 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 blah. So I was forced to, take their life. I had no other option. It was either them or me. Yeah, the rules still kick in. Do you understand? But as I say, if you do it unintentionally, then a different set of rules apply. So let's say, I don't know, what we call manslaughter, for example. You punched a person. Do you understand? Didn't know that they had a tumor in their brain or whatever, was going to die anyway, and you punched a person, and you understand, it wasn't your intention to kill. That it can be judged differently. So you have what they call ascending and descending masters, so that rule over these gateways for existence, do you understand, or moving to the next level. So in certain instances, not all, but in certain instances, certain let's say mitigation, let's say, maybe the best word, can be applied in certain circumstances. You understand? So what's the context of that? So for example, abortion of a child, for example, that has not been born, is considered also killing another human being. You understand? So however, if the parents show remorse for their decision, you understand, then the ascending master has, so you have ascending, so descending, obviously controlling people who are returning back, ascending, obviously people who are moving forward. They can meet and agree, understood, whether or not, as I say, you get a pass, for lack of a better word, in that context, you understand, and still ascend, you understand. But if not, for example, you would have to experience the emotion that the child felt of rejection, do you understand, through living out your next few lives, you understand. So in that regard, so being rejected, this would be your experience, obviously, going forward, to learn from, as I say, the decision that may have been taken for financial or other reasons, you understand. And remember, it doesn't matter if the mother was the one who decided, you understand, hey, we're going to get the abortion, for example. As the father, because you are party, it doesn't mean you have to, you was okay with the decision, but because you are party to it, you are a part of it, then you suffer the consequences as well. So this is why the importance of knowing these rules when we make these decisions. So the white man may say, well, that's legal to do. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that natural rules do not kick in just because somebody says it's legal. You understand? So it doesn't mean nothing in the context of natural nature. Any other questions? Or ask further if that question doesn't answer your question.
Yes, there's another question here from Judith. Why do so-called esoteric groups or individuals say let's go to the fifth dimension or higher, yet skipping the fourth?
Difficult to answer that without understanding what their definition of fifth dimension is. Do you understand? So some people may talk about fifth dimensional realities. Do you understand? But do they really understand what they're talking about or what it relates to? So when we talk about a three-dimensional world, which we're sort of trapped within, really, you're trapped within nouns, isn't it? Person, places, and things. So if you drew a triangle and said person, places, and things, now one may say, well, try and think of anything that's not a noun. Yeah, it doesn't fall within person, place, and things. Yeah, so if you can do that, then the reality is you've probably stepped out of the third dimension. Do you understand? So we relate it obviously to the physical environment. What they call it, height, width, and depth, isn't it? 3 dimensions, but excuse me. Obviously, what's been expressed is our ability to think outside of that. So we're trapped within a certain reality. Do you understand? So 4D will be considered to be time with certain people when they speak about it. But obviously for us, it's the same. Well, how do we think outside of the trap of nouns? Do you understand? So because somebody now trying to describe a fourth dimensional reality to a person who only understands 3 dimensions, how would you do it? You understand? So it becomes incredibly difficult. So for example, if you're an incarnated master, like master teacher, trying to teach you about obviously these higher realities, but what word would I use in trying to explain to you about 3 dimensions? You'd have to elevate up there so I could show you, or you understand? You have to get to a certain level of understanding so you know what we're talking about here. So I don't know why in that context or what organization you'd have to do that sort of study. What's their definition of it, etc., etc. As I say, some talk about Christ consciousness as the 4th dimension, different terminologies, but what it's simply saying is that, or for us, I would say, is that the 4th is the mental. So in that triangle, if you draw a line from each corner into the center, you understand? Yeah, you get a kind of you see that shape. You see the point is pulsing. If you looked at it, is the point in the center pointing inward, or is it pointing outward? Do you understand? Sort of tetrahedron style shape, whatever. And that 4th point, you understand, is the real key for us in understanding the mental. Do you understand? Because it's you're breaking out of person, places, and things which we're trapped within. You understand? Excuse me. So in that regard, so so in answer to your question, I don't know why organizations step to the 5th. You'd have to see what they mean by the 5th, and then what's their information, how they prove what they're saying to be the case. You understand? But 5th, if you look at you got the 5th, there's a movie, I think it's called The 5th Dimension. Was it called not 5th Dimension? It was called 5th something. Somebody might put it.
5th Element, was it?
5th Element. There you go. You understand? So, in that regard, so 5th Element, for example, is love. Yeah, to us. So the 5th element would be love. You understand? So different people use it in different contexts. You have to understand who's talking and how they define it in terms of their understanding of reality. Maybe they can prove it as well. A lot of people out here talking nonsense. You understand? And think they're really saying something when they're not, or think they're in the know and they're not. You understand? So there's a lot less even organizations and people who think they have the secrets of the universe, they may claim it, but they don't really understand what's really going on. Do you understand? So, yeah. Fourth is mind. Yeah, for us anyway. Person, place, and things. Anybody on this call can think of something outside it. Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. Understand? Yeah. See if you can defeat that test. Yeah. So, is there anything that doesn't fall within those three categories? Yeah. Any other questions?
Yes, there's another question here from Munaza. Who is the judge that determines the extent of a consequence depending on the circumstances of a death? Is it the natural nature or other beings?
So the rules are the rules. I suppose they're inherently built within the system. So just like anything else, like I suppose if you do the necessary things to create fire, fire gets created. So the rules by in our context we would say the Natharu, you understand, the overseers, they've built those rules into the system, so they naturally kick in. Understand, if an event happens and is triggered in the context of, as I say, elevating out, because as I say, a taking of a life or another human being or whatever would keep you trapped within this plane of existence. And as we expressed earlier, there are masters that oversee, understand, incomings and outgoings or a rising of certain souls. And so there are beings whose that job is and who have elevated to a certain level where they can make those judgments. As we said earlier in the class, there are certain roles obviously within the environment that are filled by beings who are constantly in service to existence. Like the sun, for example, is in service to existence, sustaining life, and there are others, as I say, who police certain rules. Now, is it governing every aspect of everybody else's life? No, but if you understand that everything is interconnected, you understand, then obviously in a certain level, that interconnectedness or network means that obviously no action can't be captured, because, as I say, your own physical body, for example, is recording your intention, your action, you understand, your hands, your feet, you understand, all your genetics are recording all your actions. So when necessary, it could be accessed for the point of decision making. So in the context of those rules, because what is the outcome in that context when it's the ascension, or no, you need to descend down because you've got to play out the outcome of the decision that you've made, then there are gatekeepers, for lack of a better word, who will deal with that. Now, some beings on the planet don't have a soul, so they would never elevate out of the physical anyway, because they don't have the apparatus or the structure, i.e. the soul, to do that. So they're trapped here regardless. However, certain rules kick in and they can affect, so they can affect you, but also your children. So if you, let's say for example, I know you killed another human being, let's say it was a black person or whatever, or let's do it the other way around, but let's say it's a white person and they kill somebody because they're black. So so the action is perpetrated against the other person because of their race, you understand? Then the person who did the killing receives a punishment, but it also falls upon their future generations, you understand, to avoid that. So you can't just attack people just because of their race, you understand? You have to think their rules kick in, as I say, that are a deterrent against that type of behavior. Now, people might say, well, white people put you in slavery and how come nothing's happened to them? Well, the issue there is that, remember, they've utilized the sort of scapegoat principle. So remember, if they who you mix in with and things of that nature. Remember, you inherit the fate of the actions that the other person has committed because their genes are inside of you. So it doesn't mean they don't get the judgment, but one can delay the judgment by using that scapegoat principle. So if I can put somebody in front of me to, in this instance, do you understand? They use the black race as their scapegoat for much of their ill or wicked acts. Do you understand? So that delays judgment coming in, but it doesn't stop it. You understood? Yeah. Any other questions?
Yes. There's another question from Munaza. Can you explain the ascending and descending being you spoke of earlier?
When you say explain, when you say explain, what more detail? So basically, if you die, or when you die, beings transition out of the physical plane around 3 a.m. A certain time, the gateway, let's say, is opened up every day. Do you understand? So dealing with obviously planetary and universal alignments, and beings pass through this gate. So some are coming here for various reasons, and people are ascending. So when you pass, there's a certain amount of time basically a person has to deal with their affairs, and that time can be extended as well, I think up to 60 days. So when you're dealing with, as I say, a master who's in charge of these gateways, then in this context, permission will be sought to allow a person, let's say, to stay longer to resolve affairs, because anything that kind of keeps you attracted here, so if I don't know, you're worried about your family and things of that nature, remember it's an attraction, isn't it? So it can keep you from ascending. So a person or that particular soul or ascending soul may need time, and so there are obviously beings there to assist. You understand? So as I say, more information than their purpose. That's what's already been explained. Really, they're there to govern these gateways, or opening gateways for souls, as I say, to pass through, or as I say, to be reincarnated again. So depending on what your decision is, so their purpose is there to facilitate that. So some beings, as we explained earlier, they decide, well, I'm going to come back again. You understand? Or some people, for example, they died in circumstances that were premature, for example, could be they was in a car accident, etc., and they are allowed to incarnate, for example, and in house or share the same existence as a child, you understand, for up to 9 years, to sort of balance out their being before they're ready to ascend. So effectively these masters are there to ensure, I suppose, that these the rules are applied in this context in the correct way, and where mitigation is allowed for certain types of scenario or situation, then that is applied accordingly, or assisting you in making decisions appropriate to your circumstances. Do you understand? If, as I say, whether you're ascending or whether you are descending, then there are, as I say, beings who that's their job to deal with that. You understand? Any other questions?
No other questions.
Okay, right. I think people know how to ask questions, so let me skip this. Other than the fact you can raise your hand and press the Q&A button in that regard. And if you do press the raise your hand, then this is the message that would appear. Simply unmute yourself and you'll be able to ask your question directly, or press the Q&A button as people have been doing, and you will obviously the facilitator will ask that question on your behalf. So if you do not know who the master teacher is, then it's Dr. Malachi KZ York, KZ Kabina York Okran, born in Ghana, June 26, 1945, to Mary Abbott Okran York, known as Fatima, and the Sacred Feminine, as she would be referred to as, and now obviously has transitioned, so is one of our ancestors. also I suppose to call upon. And you see there the lotus kind of flower at the side of this particular artistry around her picture, and this is the symbol of regeneration. Do you understand? And so oftentimes associated with the female. So we are matriarchal in nature and in our culture. Matriarchal, so feminine. First in that context, or understanding at least, that female was first, and not patriarchal in orientation. And Wu-Sabat as the name for the spiritual science that we follow, dealing with factual information, is feminine in origin also. Yeah, sacred masculine is father Al-Habdi Abdul Rahman Al-Mahdi. So from his mother is the Ghanaian heritage, for lack of a better word, and then the Sudanese heritage is from his father's side, and ties into the Mahdi family of the Sudan. So we get this combination there of the two, these physical lineages there. And I say Ghana, part of the Iwe tribe. You understand, the Akan tribes in Ghana, he's part of the Iwe tribe of those Akan tribes, and they are matriarchal. So the Akan tribes out of Ghana are also matriarchal, meaning, and say the lineage works through the female line, female mitochondrial line. Okay, and then we've been talking about, obviously, this master teacher at age 25, so in the School of Islam. I think the tape that you heard earlier, well, obviously, was clearly from that school. So we're talking about Allah, but really, I say, all of that combination was necessary, as I say, to really remove the spell of the monotheistic religion. So we needed to get an understanding of those three major degrees, you understand, in order to elevate then into our stuff, and as is known today, Nabab, Yaanuwn. So in a religious context, as I say, so first set of beings, so this Amun Nabab Re'e Akhtar, which the Hindus refer to as Avatar. The Muslims use the term Ila Mutajasid, so the physical structure of being, allowing a incarnated or spiritual being to speak through, so the voice of our ancestors, the essence of our ancestors, using this vehicle or vessel to communicate information to us as their children, understood that we need in this day and time to aid our ascension journey, our transformation journey from mortals back into deities again. So the Egyptians referred to that being as Tahuti, but the proper title is Amun Nabab Re'e Akhtar. You understand? Comes every 24,000 years in our culture. Now we get obviously incarnated masters symbolically every 1,000 years within the 24,000 year cycle. But the 19th elder always comes at the end of the cycle to renew our story. Do you understand? So where things stepped away from the truth, mythology, ignorance obviously has crept in this context as well. Our story must be renewed. You understand? This is the being referred to, at least to the ancient Egyptians, us as the ancient Egyptians, in coming back around again. And so many cultures around the world are looking for this individual being or whatever, but in this context, they're not going to give the attribute, as I say, to a black man because his freckles are too close. You understand? In the same context, when we look before here, we see the Mahdi. So the Muslims, for example, are waiting for this being called the Mahdi, but he already came and gone 1845 to 1885, as he's known as the Mahdi as well. But they don't recognize him because his freckles are too close. Do you understand? So many things within our story, we could miss if we're following the line and rulership, say, of the Mukasu or the Caucasian, while in, as I say, the secret houses or whatever, they know very clearly who's who, or an idea of who's who. And as I say, there's been plots around the world, whether it's the Caucasians or the Arabs, to destroy any kind of black leadership. And as you know, COINTELPRO is the rise or stopping of a black messiah. Do you understand? So essentially, you've got a government organization, they've got a government organization with an agenda You understand? With a spiritual agenda. But I thought church and state were supposed to be separated. You understand? So the FBI, in that context, J. Edgar Hoover, yes, a government organization with a spiritual agenda. You understand? Stopping the rise of Black Messiah through something called COINTELPRO. How does that make sense? You understand? So this is what we have. So whether you can sit there and believe that's no, that doesn't seem accurate or true, or you understand what's being expressed, well, the Caucasian knows full well, having gone into many of the archives or things written on the walls or whatever, they display a certain amount to the world and keep a lot of it a hidden secret. Not saying they understand it all, but they certainly understand our story and the renewal of our story, excuse me, and who they're expecting to come to deliver our liberation. Okay. All right, let's get into where we were the last.
Nabab Katnihes, before you continue, while you were speaking, there was another question that just came in, and I think it referred to one of the answers you gave to Manaz's question. And the question is from Roxana, where can this information be found, i.e., of murders and suicides?
So a good book is it's a master secret, and it is called, let's try and remember now, the spiritual you after the physical you dies. Spiritual you after the physical you dies. So you can get that from an All Eyes in Egypt store. If you don't know where they are, then at UnitedSapiensWorldwide.com. I put the website up at the end of the class. Also on YouTube, I think if you tap in that title, The Spiritual You After the Physical You Dies, I think there's a reading of the same Master Secret as well. So it was a reading before it became a book, in the sense, so you could check that out as well. Those are two areas. The 9-ball series, probably a bit more difficult to get. It was written in the 60s. That also goes into some of these rules that we were talking about earlier. It's quite a good source or reference called the 9-ball, but that is quite old, maybe more difficult to get hold of. Goes into some of those things, but pertaining to death, ascending masters, etc. The spiritual you after the physical you dies. Any other questions?
No, that's it for now.
Okay, right. Last class we were going into the fact of say epigenetics, but obviously in some detail. I think that class will be up on the YouTube channel this week, later this week. Obviously was explaining, or the master teacher was explaining how people don't realize the expansiveness of blackness, or how blackness is being defined, is a lot wider in the world than a lot of people choose to think or believe. And actually, when you're talking about whites, or what we mean by whites, even in their own context, we are talking about the definition of hybrids. You understand? So as you see on the screen there, if you're not Rh negative blood type, you're not really the white race. Do you understand? But obviously a lot of people in this world want to be white, so you understand, and consider themselves having obviously the insecurities and their proximity to who and what they are is how white they can be. Do you understand? So there's a lot of sub races which are out there, but really truly, if a white person is obviously defined here, they must be Rh negative in their blood type. Obviously transparent skin, but they must be Rh negative blood type. And this is what, as I say, their own ancestors were seeking to wipe out, this particular Rh negative blood type, in the same, which can destroy internally destroy other races' genes. So as we were discussing previously, the majority of the world is in fact Rh positive. So but we as the black race or whatever is not descended from monkeys. We came out of the waters of this planet, but the interception of our genetics and maybe others' genetics using simian genes later down the line, for example, gave Rh positive, obviously, phenotype within the bloodstream. So if you think about it now, when this Rh negative came along later down the line, the majority of races, I'm not saying it insulated, but it obviously provided a form of protection against the Rh negative blood types, which obviously the Caucasian has been seeking to spread obviously around the world in different cultures. And if you go through their history, so as we said last class, when the master teacher is talking about he's a disease, it's not designed to be an offensive statement. It's talking about their history and their story of how they were designed by the Pleiadians or their extraterrestrial ancestors, do you understand? And in actuality manipulated to be a weapon, as the Pleiadians themselves were under the rulership of the reptilians, Dragonians, and a food source for them as well. So they sought to create a replacement, understood, but then diseased that replacement to try and take out those parties that were ruling them. Do you understand? I think you watched the film Prometheus, kind of really that's their story. Do you understand? The Alien story, which is the prequel to Alien, which is called Prometheus. And actually, if you look at the mythology of the name Prometheus, that film's quite interesting. Do you understand? Even to the point of, as I say, looking at the extraterrestrials responsible for creating the alien. It's not the alien, you understand? It's the symbolic of you've got a parasitical being that must subsist off of stronger beings in order to survive. Do you understand? And that alien, obviously in the context of the movie, is carrying, you understand, a certain type of disease, you understand, weaponized in that regard. And I think in the early part of that movie, you see one of the gods or so-called gods or extraterrestrials sacrifice himself by ingesting this poison, and that created, as I say, and then he drops, I think, into the waters of the planet, and that creates this new hybrid, you understand? So when you do hybrids, this is what they're talking about, and obviously the link to COVID-19 engineered virus, which they obviously sought to take out, this particular strain, you understand? So that's what they're talking about, or that's what in our doctrine's spoken about, where there be no more Caucasians at 2060. It's the removal, obviously, of these hybrids from the planet. Yeah. So we were going into sort of that kind of food for the gods doctrine, and obviously explain to you, as I say, coming back around again to what I was just explaining, that I say a lot more people on the black side, but blacks and whites, because of mixing, are in actuality incompatible with each other genetically. And some people don't realize, for example, that they could be a white person, but they may have black ovaries, or they may have black sperm. And if they choose, they say there's a white person, they choose another white person, and that white person has got white ovaries or white sperm, you understand? Then the reason why they may have fertility problems is because they don't realize they've got racially they've got the opposite, their internal characteristics are opposite to the way they look. So because of mixing, they may have, as I say, a black ovum, for example, for a white female, and then a white husband who comes with his white sperm. It's not compatible, so they now need assistance or help in order to produce children. So much more, you see, prevalent in vitro fertilization and things of that nature. So the doctors will say, listen, you're having a hard time conceiving, but don't want to tell the world of what the problem that's really going on. Do you understand? This is what we were going through at the back end of the sort of last class. Yeah, and some of this is a result of, as I say, them inserting their genes inside of us. Because what better way to keep a people down than have the enemy within the person? Do you understand? So you've got conflicting ideas, conflicting thoughts, because of the desires of the ancestors expressing themselves within the person's bloodstream for 4 generations. You understand? So this is causing conflict and confusion, because you've got different agendas with these And so they may have their own individual agenda, but then also a collective or racial agenda sitting within you, and you don't even realize that something inside you is causing negative outcomes because you didn't even realize that this was happening because of the lack of understanding of the human body, you understand, and the for lack of a better word, the esoteric or the spiritual side of things in that regard, because no one ever taught you. Do you understand? You've been given some basic ABC style version in the monotheistic religions of what's taking place, what's happening, or even when they have given you, so there was an explanation given, I think, at the start of the class about involuntary and voluntary systems and how that's been tied into, in certain instances, those good and bad angels, so seraphim, cherubim in the context of the Bible and the I suppose the Quran in that context, you understand? But actually these are representing involuntary and voluntary systems, as the master teacher was explaining, and obviously your willpower, so the ability to do that which you ought to do or that which you ought not to do. Do you understand? You have the power of both. Do you understand? And so this is the inner conflict that you see being expressed clearly in different cultures. So I think we showed it earlier in a previous part to this, but the conflict between Horus and Set, as we find it for us in ancient Egypt, or Hara and Satak. Yeah. So that conflict, you understand, the inner conflict, or jihad, as they refer to it in Islam, do you understand? It's not an external war, it is the internal war within you. Do you understand? And those corresponding systems. You understand? So this is something you have to. You understand? You have to master these stories to be able to see what's really taking place, and that's why you. I mean, a person today, let's say for example, join the organisation, would not have to learn all of that, you know, previous religious stuff to understand what's going on now. Is start from the point of where we're at right now. But what you do get the benefit if you were around, you get the benefit of, or if you choose to study going that far back, you see how our story really has devolved. You understand? Maybe for lack of a better word. So devolved, yeah. So how it started off fully complete and now it's devolved. You understand? So part, retold, rehashed, names changed, so on and so forth. Yeah. So we get this watered down version, which, yeah, because it's got some elements of truth in there, people are attracted to it, but it's not the original. Do you understand? And far from it, in fact. Yeah. You know, poor translations of books into English, which is a confusing language at the best of times. No, very sophisticated language. You know, double meanings and things of that nature. So very difficult, as I say, just to get an understanding of what's going on, let alone the tones of the language, obviously it being dead. You understand? Because, for example, they don't roll their R's. You don't roll your R's in English. You understand? Simple enough. But they'll teach you in their biology books that the ability to roll one's eyes is a characteristic of dominant genes. Yeah. So the simple R, you understand? Yeah. R. You understand? All these things vibrate in. When we speak in proper tones, it's obviously vibrating. Our nose area, you understand, vibrating our tonsils, you understand, which works in combination with our appendix. So just speaking the language in proper tonations obviously helps to open us up, helps to realign us with you know, natural nature. So the issue is that the real kind of, I say real, but as we start to uncover, yeah, is really going into the genetics and the genes and seeing what's taking place there. And that kind of understanding really means that a lot of the games of the spell that was being played upon us is really being uncovered. And when you know, you can take control. You understand? But yeah, a lot of decisions that we've made already in ignorance, the results are already there. So maybe in this generation, we have to manage those results and be as pure, I suppose, or get to purity as we can be, knowing that, as I say, the future generations are really going to be the ones to benefit from our change from now. So that's how you have to see it in as far as maybe your own life, you understand, because of decisions you made through ignorance, It's not to throw your life away. It just means that in the physical, because the way genes work, it's the important thing is to make sure the future generations can make the decision and really benefit from that, which they are us. Your children are you. Do you like what you see? It's a famous quote from the master teacher. So we have to plan and we have to program forward. We have to program our behaviors forward in order to ultimately, in 4 generations' time, ensure that the children that are being born then are, in a sense, fully optimized in terms of Wu-Sabat, blackness, do you understand, gene strong, spiritually aligned, have their spiritual powers, do you understand, being expressed once again in this next generation, do you understand? Or if we mess around, we find ourselves again back in slavery. If we allow these Caucasians to keep advancing by not developing ourselves and coming together in strength and unity. And for those who want to follow Wu-Sabat or realign themselves with Wu-Sabat's natural nature's culture, then obviously any race can come on board if they're sincere. Do you understand? So the world needs to move more towards genetic dominance and not genetic weakness. Do you understand? And obviously, if people have got weak genes, they can mix in with those who have stronger genes, but the mentality of it has to be right. So we know that, so you can look black and have a Caucasian mind. This is one of the things that we suffer from. There's terms like imposter syndrome that are used, and many others to reflect this mental kind of illness or disease, which is against natural nature. So you should be who you are according to your genetics and your genes. That's what is natural for all races on the planet. You understand? And to be trying to be in the image and after somebody else's likeness is not natural for you. All right, let's. So we were, let's say, finishing off that. I think we're dealing with a term. I think it was to do with the fact that we had clan mothers, and doctrinally we stepped away from that because really, although we were in the Americas, well before the American Indians, you understand, we are the original indigenous people to that continent, as we used to go from Africa to the Americas on vacation, do you understand, walk, sail and fly over to that part of the world. But obviously when the continents were attached together before continental drift, we used to be able to walk over there, so we travel over there more easily, do you understand? However, the association with American Indians is we're going further back to that, so we no longer use the term clan mother and clan father in that regard. So I think what we were showing was because Indians or Native Americans, who they're calling Native Americans or who is associated with being Native Americans, although they're not native, remember it's a combination of blacks mixed with Chinese, and then later down the line Dravidians, you understand? So Indians or Hindus, some might say, but Dravidians proper, maybe more accurate title for them, do you understand? So that's a combination of mixture, and then linked really to Denisovan, do you understand, and Homo afarensis genetically. So it's not the same genetic line as us. So again, as we step back, you're tying it back into obviously our ancient Tamarian or Egyptian origins. So this was showing the fact, I suppose, or we were going into, I think in the last class, just showing that the idea of the kind of clan mother is not a Native American principle. It comes from ancient Africa, do you understand, in the form of the feminine Nigon, do you understand? So this is what we were going through, or we ended the last class dealing with, do you understand? So let's read on from where we were at, and then we'll go into something. Just showing you, let's go into a few symbols and just explain a few bit of background stuff. So, let's start from 757. This Gospel of Yaanuwn, of the Sacred Feminine, this is what this book is called, what these verses are from, reveals to you, Nuwapians or Sabians, her 9 daughters and secrets. 758. A universe of nebulas of the original mother goddess star. Tat of this universe, that's the female form of star, yeah, or sun. This universe whose from its center birthed 9 daughters. 759. Tat forms within herself an embryo of natural nature. 760. Tat has the energy of 9 reasons, 9 minds. 761. And with them concentrates and initiates divine growth of others called planets. 762. From constellations to galaxies to the solar system, a fetus in which all true planets, stars are fully formed and developed. 763. All from the mother sun, Tat. 764. She initiates the formulation and development of the 9 daughters from her core or womb. 765. And the full growth around the core takes place. 766. Tat, the great mother of this solar system, promotes the development of this one Khatat body or universe from the omniverse. 767. From her fetus is born 9 daughters. 768. When all true fetuses were fully formed and developed and ready to be born, you had the 9 feminine daughters. Yeah. 769. You have 1 Ma'at, harmony. You have 2 Neith, creativity. 770. You have 3 Patauret, protectress. You have 4 Hatat Haratat, attraction. You have 5 Sakat, breath. You have 6 Sakhamtat, strength. You have 7 Sabdat, healing. And you have 8 Nakhbatat, eternity. And you have 9 Sashat, records. Understood. So 771. So when you see Shashat, for example, as records, as the 9th, Shashat, remember, is the female equivalent to Tahuti. Do you understand? He's obviously depicted with the ibis bird and the pen in their hand. Do you understand? So again, the male and female obviously here correspond with each other in terms of how they're shown, depicted, etc. So this is showing, obviously, what it's explaining here is the symbolism, or how we explained how growth works out of the omniverse, how universes obviously are created, and then within that, you understand, remember, you have omni as all, and then there obviously, you understand, 9 different degrees of that, you understand, so multiverses at 9 on into, as I say, triverses, dual verses, which we all came from a dual verse, mother and father, you understand, into you being the universe, you understand, and there's a correlation between the birth process as it takes place here on earth and what takes place in the so-called heavens, yeah, or in space, outer space. So 771, the 9 daughters of the mother goddess Tat or Ratat or Ratat. 771, 1 the harmony, 2 the creativity, 3 the protection, 4 the attractive, 5 the breath of life, 6 the powerful, 7 the curing powers, 8 keeper of times, 9 record keeper. 773, the 9 feminine reasoning born from the divine mother Ratat, him and Ratat to radiate. So when we were talking in the last class, obviously we're explaining this kind of food for the gods doctrine, and what it is now, these sort of days, they don't even, I mean, at one time, a certain teacher, when the master teacher was writing books pertaining to these subjects, the secrets of Freemasonry, for example, Unmasked, all these types of books, revealing sort of the sort of hidden agenda. of some of these secret societies, some white brotherhood secret societies that were controlling the world, Bilderbergs, and we talked about the other class. Your life was certainly in danger for revealing this information. And now what you see in this sort of 2023 and even sort of this modern age maybe is you're seeing that these things are appearing in movies, series now. For example, I think what I watched the other day, Billions, I was watching, and obviously I think it's shown in another program with Kevin Spacey. It's gone in my head at the moment, where they're showing obviously the picking of presidents and them attending obviously Bohemian Grove. You understand? And I think the point being made is that obviously Bohemian Grove, there is obviously a large owl in their ritual that they have there in the woods. We're having discussions, as I say, about picking, as I say, future presidents, etc., etc. But I just wanted to touch on some of the symbolism and the sort of opposites that exist within the Nine Ether or owl culture, obviously, versus there, and how they manipulate these symbols in a way, manipulate these symbols, as I say, in a way that allows them, in a way, to be the cover or shield where they're taking your symbols and obviously either negatively giving them negative connotation connected with them, so that you will stay away from or be less attracted or not attracted to those symbols, or they use those symbols in a way where, say, you may be attracted to those symbols and they divert your energy into them because the context or the understanding of how it's used has been changed. Do you understand? So so any questions? I can see some thing. I'm not sure some questions before I move on to the next bit. All right, Nabab, you there? Any questions?
There are no questions, no.
Okay. All right. Appreciate that. Thank you. So, so in the last class, remember, we were going through this sort of food for the, or reminding, I should say, of the food for the gods doctrine, obviously Levitical priesthood, and the fact that to establish themselves as the authority, remember, they burned down a lot of the libraries, the ancient knowledge, so on and so forth. So it's just really a reminder about these hybrids and how even Satak in our culture, who they refer to as Set, you understand, the Greeks refer to as Set versus Horus, that Satuk himself, or Satak, was associated with foreigners, do you understand? Or foreign invaders, I should say, became associated with foreign invaders. Not that he himself was negative, do you understand? That's somebody else's interpretation of our culture. But symbolically, as you see there, what this really is denoting, the face was sort of greyhound, it's pale white, is hybrids, you understand? And this creation of hybrids, which, as I say, the Pleiadians, as we spoke about last week, obviously created this being in their image and likeness, and then sent them around the world to spread their diseased DNA, mixing in, creating sub-races and so on and so forth, in order to keep their in order to keep this hybrid lineage going. They need to mix in with people with stronger genes, you understand? And did that by way of the sword force, killing, raping, so on and so forth. So this is the Vikings, or as you know, V1 is 6 kings or kingdom or kinsmen, you understand, of the Celtic clans, of what it relates to. So you can see here with the Hellfire Club, Bohemian Grove, they use a symbol of the owl, and so it's sort of important for us to go to. And I think in the previous class, I think maybe Lotus of Life, something like that, we've covered this in great detail, so check that out on our YouTube channel if you want more interest in this type of thing. So we're just giving just an overview for the moment. So you can see the owl being used there in their symbol, but obviously we see the owl, and obviously this is Bohemian Grove, the large large depiction of an owl, you understand, which obviously they burn fire to or make sacrifices, let's say, in front of this owl. And I think in billions they burn the owl. You understand? Which I thought was quite interesting symbolism. They had the owl there cut out in the sand for the thing, and they burn the owl to the ground. Now, the issue is that when you see what the owl symbolizes, so in our Safafat, so the hieroglyphs, yes, the symbol of the owl is used for the letter M. You understand? So so bringing that back around again, we talked that before. So yeah, the reality is, and we understood different races within the context, as I say, of ancient Egypt. You see on the walls of Seti I, where so we were breeding out or trying to breed out disease within the human genome. Do you understand? And this has led to various different projects that have taken place around the world. This is obviously showing a depiction of various different graftation, because you can't, the devil to us as ancient Egyptians, remember, was bad or adverse bacteria. You understand? So viruses, things you can't see that cause diseases. So if you could take it out of the human body and put it in a being or a person that you can see, then the theory was that it would obviously make it easier then to avoid diseases, which is say the silent killers or the invisible killers, maybe a better way to say it, that you can't see. Do you understand? So they're responsible for many, if not all, diseases on the planet that we see today. Yeah. So let's say depiction of the 4 different races and represent different breeding projects that were taking place, where we're trying to breed out, let's say, these negative or adverse germs into a being that could be seen. Now, so the M, so when we see it being used negatively in this context, we have to understand that this is the kind of, let's say, 6th and 9th view or perspective of things, and how our symbols get, as I say, reused for negativity. But I just want to point you to the sort of symbolism and what it's sort of going into. So interestingly, let me just share my screen for the moment so I can just draw. Just bear with me 1 second. Just checking, can you see my screen? Yeah, is it a?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Whiteboard, yeah.
Yes, I can see a whiteboard.
Okay. Right, always tricky to write on the screen, but let's look at this now. So the owl in ancient Egypt, Par-Buam, is symbolic of the M. Yes. So we have a lot of different symbols, but the M. So M, you think about for mother, and if we think about how we say M, it's not a M sound, for example, in the language. It's an EM sound, isn't it? Yeah. So we say M, but it should be a M sound. Or in a Wu-Sabat, for example, what you would consider to be the English equivalent of M is meh. Yes, that's a meh sound. It doesn't have an EM sound. So in English, the technology comes in is because when you look at the certain letters, for example, they don't have a unique sound for one, and they have a different sound. The letter itself has a different name or sound to what it should be phonetically. Do you understand? So when you say F, for example, are you saying F? No, you're saying EF. It's an E sound. It's not a F sound. Do you understand? In this context, so obviously there's confusion in there, in the language. Do you understand? Obviously we see C, for example, and which is a K sound, but then we get K, for example, is also supposed to be K. So there's confusion and technology, obviously, in the language. But let's look at let's play with this M a bit to understand. So we've got the M, So forgive my drawing. So you can see the M. Spare with me. Let's see it. Yeah, hopefully it doesn't disappear. We can see the M there on the screen. Yeah, and so M for mother. If we invert it, yeah, what do we get? We get W, yes, what they call W, yes, for water. Yeah, well, that's one of the ways it can be used, yeah? Now, let's turn it now on its side. And we get, what looks like a 3, yes? And then if we show it again, yeah, we get this other symbol, which actually looks like more like certainly in the Sabat language, like the hard A. Do you understand? Or one of our scripts, the hard A. Now, let me show you something else now. So if we look at the word B, and we draw it in that context, for example, yes, what do we get? Well, if we split it, yeah, we get 13. Now, what's interesting about the word, the letter B, excuse me, is that basically the monotheistic religious books basically all start with B, and in fact, the proper name for Genesis in Hebrew is the word Barashith. Do you understand? It means to reconstruct or to remake. You understand? And the B is tying into baked or bet or bat. It's the word for house, in a sense. It's something that is housing things. Now, if you think biblically, yeah, that B is really, as I say, you split it and you get 13. Do you understand? Now, in their story, there's 7 days of creation. The word day, we know, is Yom. It just really means period of time. In fact, 7,000 years. If you go to the sort of Sumerian tablets. So if we do 7 times 7, so these 7 periods, yeah. What does 7 times 7? You get 49, correct? And then what's 4 plus 9 equals what? Yeah, that 13 again. So what's happening is there's a lot of symbolism that's being there, which basically is not been fully expressed. The world doesn't know, but then, as I say, there's some attractiveness to it because there's some seemingly element of, I don't know, you call it sacredness, or do you understand, something mystical to it. But what's happening is a repurposing of your story, your culture, your symbols, to, as I say, establish them as a source or the force of authority, in a sense. So you see them as the source and not your own as the source. And in that regard, your energy then is directed away from it being self-sustaining to therefore sustaining other than self and kind. Do you understand? And this is very important. If you know who you are as an individual and the energy that you contain, and as I say, like the sun shines on everybody, but in the condition that we find ourselves in, do you understand? Yeah, we have to ensure that, yeah, the energy is being directed in the right and correct ways, and to do that, ignorance must be destroyed for us, and we must get back to facts and knowing again, in the context of who we are and how to make ourselves more spiritually effective. You understand? In line with ours, our physical effectiveness. You understand? Both need to have mastery, or both need to work hand in hand. So, as I say, so we're seeing that in that context. Excuse me. Yeah, where the B, 13, and what they don't like the number 13. To them, it's an unlucky number. Understood? But why is it unlucky? Well, you see it, they have an issue, the patriarchal, so they learn patriarchy from the Anunnaki. Do you understand? Yeah, so the Anunnaki came in with the patriarchal thinking versus the matriarchal, which obviously is the source of all existence. You understand? Because you need existence before creation. Do you understand? In order to plant things, you need the space in order to do that. You need soil. You understand? And the environment in order to plant the space. So the blackness of space that we see in outer space out there, which our planet, etc., is set within, understood. The woman reflects that here on Earth. Do you understand? What they refer to as triple darkness, isn't it? The phase of growth within the womb. Do you understand? There's no light within there. The darkness or blackness is that supreme balancement. It's a source of growth. It's a source of where things become some things. You understand? Or energy transforms into matter. Excuse me, it's the lowest or slowest level of vibration. Do you understand? So in our culture, those societies, Rome, Greece, do you understand? All descendants, I suppose, from ancient Sumer, ancient Babylon, hated us because we were matriarchal. Understood? So the destruction and use of the owl, they say it means they use it for wisdom, or, well, nights, for example, with a K, the owl is nocturnal, it can see in the dark, understood. But the situation of burn or using fire with it is because while they subliminally worship the woman, they don't respect the woman. You understand? And so their Bible story tries to downplay, you understand, yeah, all of the role of women. In fact, they remove her for a role from their culture. So in the Bible, when we talk about Genesis and their translation of the book, understood, these are not our books, that's their books. Yeah, it says Noah begat. Yeah, so Noah begat. Well, where's Noah's wife? Noah didn't begat anything. He may have had a role to play, but he didn't begat, he didn't birth. You have to have women for that. So all the female descendants are not shown, excuse me, in the descendancy. One second, let me just drink some water. Yeah, apologies for that. So all of the descendants of the females, if you look through their books, they're not showing the descendancy. They remove the woman almost completely out of the story, leaving obviously one to blame for why sin is in the world, so on and so forth, because of the woman's behavior. You understand? Now, also, when you look at their zodiac, in the center of the zodiac is supposed to be the hippopotamus deity, isn't it? Yeah, who the Greeks refer to as Zodiacus. Yeah, we know as Ptahhotep. It's supposed to be in the center of the zodiac. But when you look in their depictions of the zodiac, which is a rip-off or a copy of the Dendora star map, they've removed the woman from the center. Do you understand? So remember, no. When you have a hybrid, check this, a hybrid can't produce another hybrid. Yeah? A hybrid cannot produce another hybrid because a hybrid doesn't have any roots. Yes? So they have to do the whole thing to create the hybrid again. In the sense, if you mix a horse and a mule together, for example, yeah, a mule, which creates a mule can't create another mule. Do you understand? So who's their anger with? Their anger is directed at their deity. Do you understand? Their anger is directed at their God because of the deficiencies, understood, which led to their creation. Do you understand? They created them deficient, understand, because of, obviously, from a technological point of view, they wasn't part of the process of billions of years of growth into millions of years of growth to develop this complex human life form. They came along and stole, you understand, existing man and sought to, or version of man, and sought to upgrade it, you understand, by binding their genes with it. So it had a lot of flaws. Yeah. So them seeing this on the walls, or they've uncovered this, finding their own story. Their societies over the years have been known for their hatred of women and hating us because we were matriarchal. Do you understand? So putting the owl almost at the center of their ritual, do you understand, is almost in twofold. It's a mockery. Yeah, it's a mockery of who that original or our original deity is. Do you understand? Yet still feeding off of it or repurposing its meaning. Because if you destroy the woman, what are you doing? You're destroying the genes. You're destroying future generations. You understand? You're destroying the source. Seemingly. Do you understand? So, excuse me. So, anything they're doing or they're using is for control. Yeah, because of your ignorance, you don't know what these symbols mean, or when we were not taught what these symbols mean and what's really going on. Yeah, when we're looking at certain things, you understand? And that's why the incarnated master was needed to break the spell. Well, okay, when we're looking at it, and it was programmed, you understand, by our ancestors, our extraterrestrial ancestors, obviously to do so. So let's look at, or remind you, let's say, because I think some of you have seen some of this before. Yeah, and we'll come back to these drawings in a bit. Yeah, to look at how some of this symbolism plays out. Yeah, so hopefully now we're giving back to you again, it makes a bit more sense. So you understand obviously about the last 7 letters of the alphabet, as we taught you before, how they pertain all to the birthing process. And even actually if you look at the A, we can see also there that pertains to it. But T, testes, T for testes, U represents the sort of penis. Do you understand? V, you understand, the vulva. Here the W, W, you understand? And so here, if you look at the penis there, which is what it represents, the penis is a delivery mechanism. Do you understand? So it delivers the seed, doesn't it? Yeah. So it's a source. Yeah. Obviously, it spits forth. You understand, those sperm, obviously, in the context into obviously going into a woman for the purpose of reproduction. Then that's going to be ejaculated, obviously, into the woman. You become a man, obviously, when you have your first ejaculation. Have the vulva there, in the sense of the name for the vagina, and obviously all of the associated parts of that. The W, so the W is a delivery mechanism, so this represents the breasts. You understand? Also a mechanism for what? Sustenance. Yeah, for feeding obviously the offspring, or the M, the other part of the M other. So we look at mother, M other. So the offshoot or offspring from the original. And then we've got X, which is used chromosomally, Y, which is used chromosomally, and then Z, understood, which represents Zoe, or the name Zoe. You understand? Or what they use for Zoe. Zoe means life, but in Hebrew, for example, the word they use for seed is zera. You understand? Also the character, if you remember, I think it's in the older Planet of the Apes movies. Remember one of the apes, you understand? Yeah, and the character, female ape, was called Zera. Yeah, that means seed. Yeah, or obviously Zoe meaning life. So all these letters here are symbolic, and we just talked about 7 days of creation. Yeah, yeah. So the last 7 letters of the alphabet, yeah, it's all pertaining to birth. You understand? Life, death, resurrection, as we see there. You understand? So so the star of life. Let me show you this in very early parts of this class. Do you understand? Yeah, but you can see all those symbols. Yeah, the star and the crescent. What you see in Islam, yeah, one of the symbols on countries, Islamic countries, you see a star and a crescent. Do you understand? What does it relate to? Well, it looks like what you're looking at here. Do you understand? So we see here, all this is pertaining, yeah, to life's origin. You understand? How we evolve and grow out of existence. Do you understand? Because really, symbolically speaking, yes, a star can't be encapsulated within a moon, can it? A star, if the planet Earth, you can fit 1 million planet Earths into our sun, for example, then how does a star fit inside of a moon? Yeah, a star is significantly larger than the moon. Yeah, so all this time you're looking at it and not looking at the symbol is incorrect. Unless it's speaking about something else, which they don't know. They can't explain it. They go into some of these Islamic mosques or whatever around the world, and yeah, you walk in, you see obelisks, Egyptian obelisks, all around some of these repurposed temples or even purpose-built mosques or whatever. You see obelisks there. What are obelisks doing? That's not an Islamic symbol, an obelisk. Yeah, but now you sort of get into an understanding of what's going on. We see, well, that obelisk, what does it represent? The Ben stone. Yeah, what does Ben mean? They say in Hebrew, it means son of son. Yeah, that delivery device or mechanism, the penis. Yeah, delivering sons. S-U-N and S-O-N. You understand? So they've stolen many other things, but obviously what is that the penis or the obelisk, in Islam, as is been expressed in the previous class, becomes the minaret. Yeah, the minaret in Islam, where they call the adhan from, the call to prayer. And what does it look like? Let's keep it 100%. Look at it again. Yeah, it looks like a what? Exactly. Do you understand? So the reality of the situation is what you're looking at, and then obviously the dome on the mosque, do you understand? Yeah, is nothing but the female breasts. So these are all sex symbols, yes, pertaining to what? Because the sperm and the ovum, at least for our life form, is a true deity, isn't it? Without that coming together, we would not be here, which is what this symbol obviously shows. Do you understand? And we see the Y in there, again, utilized for chromosomal expression. Do you understand? So the star, yeah, and the crescent, yeah, and what does the woman tie into there? Yeah, well, 4 phases of menstrual cycle tie into what? The moon, isn't it? Yeah, so she has the waters of the planet within her womb. The moon was once a part of the earth, and so the moon is, having once had water on it, is pulling on, you understand? Yeah, pulling on the water of the planet, which creates tides. But it's also pulling on the waters of the womb within the woman. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so obviously there's turbulence when a menstrual cycle comes along, but it's tied into one of these 4 phases of the moon. You understand? One of those 4 cycles. You understand? So a lot of symbolism here, when we know and understand, this is what is being uncovered and made plain and clear. Understood? So if you're taking offense to this, then obviously avert away. Just for biological purposes, but the U symbolizes the phallus, as I said, the V, the vulva, and then the mammary gland obviously is the breast. Do you understand? And then, as we just expressed there, the Y chromosome, and then I say Z for seed or life there. Do you understand? And so when we look at Freemasonry, for example, and we look at the symbols here, interesting enough, we see the intertwining there of these symbols. Even there you see in the 5-pointed star. So if you look at the extremities of the woman, for example, in the Eastern stars, it will be 5 extremities, correct? You understand? And then here, obviously, as the man, you count 6 extremities, including you understand, his 2-ball cane. Do you understand? So, and interesting enough, when you see the Y there crossed into the T, it's what? Intersecting male and female. You know, that's Y chromosome here, intersecting Here, see the X on the 6-point star, again showing intersecting. So when we look at our compass, for example, and the square, how we understood it, now in the G only sits in the center of the compass and the square in English, do you understand, or English speaking countries, or you know, so genes, generations, you know, some countries they don't have the G sitting in the symbol, in fact it's empty. And yeah, we see an overlay here, so this sort of a 90-degree angle, understood, and we see a circle, which is what the compass makes, and then an eye at the center. Do you understand? So not realizing actuality that when you're looking at some of these angles, so this is where there's the kind of, well, do they really know the secrets? You know, what angle is this supposed to be depicted at? You understand? That's a question, for example. Or so these are some of the symbolism of the secrets, which you say, well, that's a Freemasonic symbol, that's the devil's symbol, which is what our people, because they've been programmed to steer away from what things really mean. You understand? So if they tell you don't look into that, that's the evil thing. What are they doing? It's the equivalent of putting a danger symbol around a fence. They don't really want you poking your eyes in or going to have a look, so on and so forth, in relation to that. You understand? Because well, they want you to learn another language, yeah, your own language other than English, and they don't want you going back to Africa and looking back into your spiritual science. They diss Egypt in the monotheistic religions, you understand, but yet spend billions of pounds, yeah, over years or whatever, studying ancient Egypt. You understand? Most documentaries, Marcus was making a point, I don't know if it's true today, but most varied of, so most documentary type or varied type of documentary made is Egypt and food. You understand? Two top subject areas. You understand? So what you're seeing is our symbolism, and that's the thing. We have to always go back to the source of the original. What did we mean? What did we use those symbols for, etc., etc.? So these pertain to the sexual position. Do you understand? Obviously, male over female. You understand, in terms of the sexual act. Yeah. So what these symbols mean now, when we are looking at them, again, simply talking about the process of how life is produced, you understand, which obviously is the pathway to what people are talking about when they talk about God or an Allah, you understand, etc., etc. They created this and various different terminologies that they use, not knowing you are that deity, you understand, and our ability to recreate, you understand, reproduce, you understand, en masse, yeah, generally speaking, when our genes were stronger, without issues. As we said, the purpose of a black woman and a black man coming together is to produce supreme beings. The purpose of soulmates, I should say, is also to produce supreme beings. They produce deities, not to produce children, it's to produce deities, supreme beings in the flesh. Yeah, which inherent skill, you understand? Yeah, taking us from when we were things all the way to where we are now, the lowest level of vibration here in the physical, and how that correlation or that link, you understand, goes all the way from the source and manifests itself, yeah, in us today as divine design. Yeah, absolute correlation. Which, as I say, you're attacked for in this society. Genetic strength, you understand, is seen as as ugly within this society, and genetic inferiority is seen as beautiful within this society. So they don't respect our God. They are anti our deity, which is us as the matriarch. You understand? Because before you get energy, yeah, which is the starting point of motion, you had something called basic energy. Yeah, which is why light, as I say, moves at 186, 272 miles, whatever, per second in space, in a vacuum. Yeah, because something is controlling its speed. Yeah, basic energy. The female is responsible for basic energy. Basic energy, why would we not understand what it is? Because it imparts no motion and imparts no force, things that we would associate with energy. But basic energy gives birth to energy. Yeah, motion out of stillness. You understand? So, and all of those things, the same correlation that exists in the woman today. You understand? The fake story in the Bible, well, woman was taken out the rib of man. Man doesn't have one less rib. He has 24 whatever ribs and 12 on both sides. There's one less rib on one of the sides. So you understand? This is their patriarchal understanding. If the woman was to have come out of Adam would have had to have been a hermaphrodite. You understand? Not a man. You have to be a hermaphrodite, a neutral gender being. Yeah, so the woman doesn't have the defective Y chromosome. So how can the Y, the lesser, you understand, which has one strand less 2.8% less genetic material than the X chromosome, how can it give birth to the greater? It's impossible. Maths doesn't align. The alchemy doesn't align. They're fake stories. So, and myths. So it's simply talking about how we produce, you understand, how deities in our context are produced. You understand, how we have that divinity within us and how we're able to then, understand, cause it to produce more and more and more through this process, which at one time was considered to be what? Sacred. Yeah, and how we have misused our sexual powers, or been taught to misuse, or been fooled to misuse, to scramble the genes, make it much harder to produce supreme beings once again. Yeah. Any questions?
No questions.
So, you understand, I won't go through the whole breakdown of the number one. I think we've covered it in previous classes, but effectively, what this is showing you, remember, when you say one, the sound phonetically is not what you're reading, is it? You say one as in W-O-N. You understand? When one is really saying on-e. And actually the word on, something in the Bible, I think Genesis chapter 41, if memory serves me correctly, the priest of on, talking about the priest of on, yeah, the word we're looking up in etymology, it goes back to the word sun. You understand? So when you're saying on-e, really, you're saying sun or solar energy, really, is what you're saying, as the starting point. Yeah, so here saying one is Re Atum to become Atum Re. Means to say Atum is the position, Re is the sun. Do you understand? So obviously the sun, before it manifests into the, we can see it in the physicality of space, yeah, it's birthed, isn't it? Yeah, from something. So it's coming from the energy side, yeah, into the material side. So that's why they're obviously seeing the word in reverse. Do you understand? So sun and position, yeah, atom or atom is the first point of physical existence, let's say. So it now coming into here means that, so here was energy first, and then forward, the space necessary to put that energy within had to be created, understood? And then when we're now here over on the physical side, then the space is there for then the sun then to occupy. So space, you understand, which is the position, and then when you see the sun in that position, then it's Atum Reye, you understand? Or Atun Reye or Amun Reye, or in this context, the hidden sun, yeah, Anun Reye, understood? So the starting point, so the true one, there's really no such thing as the number one, because as we explained, you have to take 1%. So when you get to 99% of the first element, in order for it to transform into the next thing, it needs to take 1% of 2 in this context to complete the one, in the sense. So it's a join, it's one energy in transition. So one is transforming into the other. You understand? So that's why there's no real such thing as a number one. We're expressing the starting point, the whole of a thing, Understood? And this is what that percentage sign really means when you're talking about the separation between what they're called in the world of matter versus the energy, that sort of transition point. Whereas why atom in itself as the first element on our chart, understood, his name means the indivisible one. Understand? Because you can't tell where one ends and where it begins to transition between the two states within existence. Understood? Yeah, so right, I want to play this class, but let's deal with this first. So remember, as we were expressing earlier, just giving you again just an overview of what we showed you before about the way in which the symbols are used. So that M there, the M there, obviously mother, mitochondrial DNA, which as we know here, that the mitochondria sits outside of the nucleus of the cell. This is why, in terms of it being passed from mother to daughter, there's no what's the word I'm looking for? So it's not crossbred, obviously, with the DNA that's in the nucleus. So it stays isolated, so it's in its own area, and then can be passed on to the daughter, obviously without any of the cross breeding in the context of obviously the father's own DNA. So hence the father's DNA only passes, so if you pass your son, you're only passing a seed across to one generation. Do you understand? And the male equivalent of the mitochondrial DNA, called the YAP DNA, is basically in the tail of the sperm. Tail drops off when the sperm and the ovum fuse together, and there's so little of the male DNA left, it's overwhelmed by the female in terms of lineage. You understand? So religion has created the idea that lineage is through the son. So again, fake lineage. You understand? Remember, 3 ether, 6 ether, it represents myth, lies. You understand? Faith, belief. It's not based on facts. Yeah, the facts are that in order to carry on your lineage, you must have a daughter. You understand? Which is why, you understand, to carry on the pharaonic line, you understand, you had to have a daughter. Yeah, so here we're seeing that, say that mitochondria, and it is again another confirmation. Study mitochondria, another confirmation that woman was first, was because the nature does not create, as we expressed earlier, nature creates the charger and the mechanism for charging first. It doesn't create the appliance first. Let me say that again. Nature creates the charger, charging to the power for the charger and the charger, understand, before it creates the appliance. So if you're talking about Adam being first, what you're talking about is, well, the appliance was created before that which powers the appliance was created. Yeah, because how was he to be fed as a child? Understand? How was he to be fed? Because they give you the impression he was born or sprung up as an adult, which is again into Sumerian tablets and recordings. They were children who were raised in a enclosed environment. So he needed the source or a food source on to feed off of. You understand? So, excuse me, in that regard. So your food source as a baby, you understand, this has been the same design, yeah, although religion would like you to believe differently, it's been the same design from the very beginning. Yeah, woman first, bears a child is sustained by its sustainer. Yeah, just like the sun sustains. It's sustained by its sustainer, i.e. the woman. Yeah, the breast. The same, which is a circle with a what? A dot in the middle, which is the same symbol that can be applied to the sun as a source. Where's their correlation in their religious stories? Yeah, unprovable stories, unproven. So you had one incident or event where a man was born whole, sprung up out the ground. Understood? Born whole. Yeah, but their story falls short because what's the problem now? Well, if Adam was made in the image and after the likeness of God, yes, correct? And every man born thereafter is in the image and after the likeness of Adam. Yeah, if you're a man here on the call today, yeah, check what you have in the center of your belly. Yes, you have a navel, correct? So the question is, and how did you get that navel? You got that navel because you had an umbilical cord that was connected to who? A woman, correct? So if Adam is in the image and after the likeness of God, then the question is, who was Adam's navel connected to? And then the deeper question is, well, who was God's navel connected to? If your story be true, because it falls down. You understand? Yeah, because where's the correlation? Look in our story, pure correlation between the heavens and what is taking place on earth. As above, so below, the science of the pyramid. Understood? So, the woman or the number or the M, remember, symbolizes the number 1,000. Yeah, as we was explaining previously. So we have this 1 representing the whole, and then we have the zeros off of that representing version. Yeah, so remember, all of the different races having a symbolic number, us being the highest, 999 out of the perfect number 1,000, which is what the Romans took and gave the letter, yeah, the equivalent of 1,000. You understand? So the 99 plus 1, or that science in Wu-Sabat, is known as Damumti. You understand? It means unity. Yeah, the true unity, the true singular, which is the woman. Yeah, the original. And then the versions shoot off of the original. The only being, as I say, we said last week or last class or whatever, who has perceived the existence of another human being outside of her own mental reality. You know how your eyes work. You don't see outwardly, you see inwardly. You understand? And a three-dimensional holographic image is created in the brain. You understand? So this is why it's important. I was seeing the symbols. Well, they taking this owl now and want to take out the owl and destroy it because they want to destroy the source. Yeah, darkness to them is ignorance. It's not ignorance to us. Darkness to us is supreme balancement. It's the source of all facts, source of all knowledge, and we represent or reflect our relationship to it through symbols. Yeah, because symbols have what? A hidden meaning. Understood? Yeah. So important that you see here, I suppose, the safaf, which is what they call hieroglyph. You understand? Obviously, the text symbol there relating to the woman. You see it spitting forth here from the cobra, but this is obviously the symbol for moisture. So the whole symbol itself is tafaf, natat, or tefnot, they say. It's a symbol for mitochondrial DNA. Do you understand? Yeah, the spitting forth of the water. But when you break the symbol up, obviously here you see it's what? That we see that M symbol there. Understood? Yeah, so because we never questioned, isn't it? Well, where do they get their letters from and the shape and everything? We just accepted it. Let a black man come and tell you the same thing like the master teacher. We got 20,000 questions. How does it work? How does it thing? Prove this, prove that. Never asking the Mukasu any questions about where the origin of their stuff came from. Why is the letter A shaped like that? Why is the letter B shaped like that? How did it come? Who was responsible for it? So on and so on. Not a single question asked. accepted without interrogation? Are they a valid source of truth for you, black woman and black man? Not based on racism, based on history of behavior? No way. Lies, 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 and covering of truth. You understand? So we can't get our story from them. We have to get our story from us. You understand? Because it just can't be trusted. So that symbol of that 999, as we see in the hieroglyphs, you're familiar with this. We're just going over it for people who haven't been obviously for the same time, or if you need a reminder. So 999, the three flags symbol, is a symbol for the overseers. Understand? As I said, who are sons. Yeah, so and interesting enough, say in I'm going to show you here. When we see in the term here, we see the soft A here. Yeah, so soft A, as in atum. You understand? But as we were showing you earlier, the again, which is why it's interesting how, so this used to be so in the old script, yeah, that was the hard symbol for the hard A, but now this same symbol is the symbol for SH, yeah, or shu in this, or shuar in this context. You understand? Which again, see the three extremities here, it looks like a three, and so in this word here, yeah, so seeing it also looks like an inverted three there, if you look at the sort of symbol closely there. And obviously here, say the SH symbol, or the sh, you understand? Now, why is that interesting? Well, it's just showing you here where certain symbols are all interconnected. So for example, the M here for us is a sort of symbol for the B in reverse, isn't it? Understand? This is our symbol for the letter M in one of our scripts. Understood? And as I say, as you can see, obviously looks like a set of breasts if you looked at it from so view from above. Also looks like the vulva in a sense, you understand? So all the symbols, the way we use them, all ties into the propagation, you understand, or sustaining, as a sort of life journey. But when we ask them about their B with the curve thing, which we write, no one knows none. Yeah, because we never question it, we just accepted it for what it is. Now, that when we're talking to you about that food for the gods doctrine, yes, the sh symbol then. So when we took, remember, they took our three flag symbol, yeah, and it became the symbol for their deity, as in Shaddai, you understand, the Almighty. Understood? In that regard. So when you look at the sort of the 3-point symbol, you understand? Yeah. That sh symbol, you understand, is really elevating from the 3 flags. This is where they stole it from. So see the 3 symbols there. For our symbol of the Natharu, I think the animation is not cut across here, but if you go and look at the symbol, basically in Hebrew, yeah, for shin, and then you look at, this is the Arabic word for sin, but pull up the Hebrew word for shin, you see it's again got this 3, so you can see the Muslims took that same symbol from the Hebrews, and the Hebrews took it from us as the ancient Egyptians. You understand? So from that 3 flag symbol. But the sh in as a word for Shaddai here, you understand, comes from the Egyptian hieroglyph symbol for shed, you understand, meaning savior. Understood? And what is the purpose of their savior? Well, it ties into the food of the God's doctrine because of a being by the name of Shesmu, you understand, which reflected wild animals in ancient Egypt. So it's a negative symbol, but obviously wild animals are carnivorous, you understand, they eat flesh of all different kinds or types, depending on the animal concerned. So that symbol is tying back in. So the way we use Saviour and the way they're using Saviour, so Saviour tying into something that can be used later. Saying you're saving something for use later. Excuse me. You're tying back in to that foods of the God doctrine. Look up Par Shesmu. Yeah, or Shesmu. Shezmu. Understand? Look up Shesmu. Which is what ties into their Shaddai. Understand? And Shed. Yeah, when you really look at the, or Shad, yeah, look at up in Hebrew in etymology, it means demon. Understand? As we said earlier, God is the devil and the devil is God. Yeah, to them. It's tying into this being by the name of the son of Enlil. Looking at my head for a second there. Obviously Zuen. What's his name? Beginning with N. Help me out here, Para Himabab. The name's gone out my head for a second. Begins with N. Let's just do the easy way. Yeah, so much information. So, any questions, by the way?
Yes, let's have a look. Yes, there's a question from Munaza referring to something you spoke about a little earlier. The question is, what is an example of why a being who is passing would need or want to inhabit a child for up to 9 years?
It's not the want of the being, that's just the way the system is set, because their life was taken prematurely, and so in order to balance out their being, they get the permission to incarnate back into the physical, and so they utilize another being's life journey. So the fact of the matter is that everybody who's born, or us who are born, we are a universe, understand? And like, for example, your physical body is a universe. You house many different life forms, even though you don't realize it, because you're focused on you, but you're holding many different life forms. You are holding spirits right now, understand, of different people's lives that accompany you, and they can have an impact in terms of how your life plays out here on the planet, you understand? So say somebody who's died prematurely can utilize another being's, or house another being's body to experience the physical and balance out their being, you understand? And they're allowed up to 9 years in order to do that, which is why I think we were talking about in a previous class, when they people are looking at, for example, the transgender situation, yeah, it may be that a child, for example, who's born female, has inherited the spirit of an incarnating male soul, and so you understand, if the personality of that individual is quite dominant, then that child basically has been housed by another life form, maybe exhibiting more male than female traits. Do you understand? And so therefore it's premature to act before 9, because what will happen is that male spirit may be dominant, and then when the child reaches 9, that spirit leaves that child, and the child reverts back to the gender that their chromosomes reflect, and in this context it would be a female. You understand? So not understanding who human beings are spiritually, and what's taking place in and around, can lead to decisions which, as I say, are not correct, based on, as I say, understanding the characteristics of an operating universe. You understand? Because that's what a human being is. Hence why I think in one of the, but in one of the scrolls, for example, Sacred Wisdom of Tahuti, it even says that in our solar plexus, we in-house other universes. There are whole civilizations and lives that live within our own solar system, referred to as a solar plexus. You understand? So you're much more than a man or a woman. You are a universe. You understand? And therefore, your life journey can be utilized by other life forms. There's many animals, for example. You may see insects or ticks or whatever on the skin of that animal, or things that live off the skin of that animal. Do you understand? And they just because you can't see it doesn't mean you're not sustaining a whole other life form. So it's the same thing in relation to people die prematurely. They can get permission to utilize another human being's body for 9 years to incarnate and experience life through this other individual. Do you understand? And it has consequences. As I say, they can dominate that person or individual's personality. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yes, there's another question. For a woman who has had an abortion without knowledge of the natural nature rules, are there steps she can take to give back, pray to her unborn child, or restore order for her life/soul, essentially to avoid or reduce the consequences?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, if the person shows remorse, you understand, I suppose both mother and father, if they show remorse, because the child becomes the soul of, when you kill somebody, I didn't touch upon those rules earlier, but the soul of the person attaches to you as the individual. Do you understand? So obviously in the case of murder, in the context of taking somebody's life who's not a child, one of the people, why people start drinking, maybe taking drugs or whatever, because the person who's been murdered oftentimes is trying to get you to kill yourself so that you then transform into what they are, and then they can have obviously the opportunity to attack you directly. You're both on the same vibrational plane. You understand? So they will seek to try and take your own life. You understand? This is what happens to soldiers, why they go crazy and things of that nature, because the souls of the people that they've killed attach themselves to the individual. So in a similar sense, the soul of the unborn child will attach to the person in an abortion situation, and in that instance can act as the person's guardian angel. In some instances, that soul may attach and then come through if the person chooses to have another child. You understand? But if the person shows genuine remorse for what was done in ignorance, then the ascending or descending master, they come together and they determine or make a decision on whether, as I say, what the next steps are. So whether there's say forgiveness in that context. I'm going to use the word forgiveness, not the right word, but whether the punishment basically is not applied in that context. Otherwise, it's an automatic reincarnation. You understand? So automatic. So there's no ascension journey for that individual. You'd have to basically be born again and experience a life of rejection, do you understand? Or lives of rejection until your being was balanced back out again. But yes, if there's genuine remorse, then that will be looked upon, and as I say, the punishment can be averted. All of this is in a book. I say the spiritual you after the physical you dies. Yeah, spiritual you after the physical you dies. Yeah. The name I couldn't remember was Nana. Yeah, I just had a brain blank for a second. Nana. Yeah, so Nana is their true god. Yeah, it means master of fire. Understand? Interesting title. Yeah, master of fire. So that's who is really their god or their deity. Let's say who is the devil and God in one. Yeah. So, but look up Shezmu, Shezmu, Shezmu. Yeah. You see that same shad, shaddai, yeah, coming from, yeah, Shesmu. Rutledge dictionary will have that in there. Yeah, Egyptian Rutledge dictionary will have that in. So, as you see, Nathar and Nathar Tat, yeah, so the three symbols there, the overseers, both male and female in this regard, and we have male and female sons, as you were more familiar with. So, obviously, this is the symbol of the owl, Pa Buam. You understand? Again, you see the interesting enough, we see that B, we see the W there, and we see an M in the English language at least. We see those symbols in there. We see that W in the owl symbol. Understand? So now we're giving you a bit of a more of an insight. So, that's interesting. The sound of it, the name, yeah, and where this was taken from. So in our symbols, I say M pertain to the mother. In this regard, yeah, and the symbol for in the Greeks to say symbol for 1000. Here, as we showed you before, that M symbol, so the way we pronounce it as M, yes, you can see here, look, in the Hebrew, this is Genesis 3:20, chapter 3, verse 20. Eve was considered the mother of all living. The Hebrew word for mother is the term M. Yeah, M. And in Arabic, yeah, same equivalent there. You see it there as a term here as Yeah, so here it's just saying in Surah 58:2 there, it's just saying their mothers. Yeah, so this is the term ummahatihim, or ummahatitum. You understand? Basically, which is saying their mothers. Yeah, long way of saying their mothers in the grammatical context. But the term there, yeah, you look it up. Don't believe me. Is the Arabic way for mother. Understand? It's the same way as saying M. Understood? So, as I say, and then when we look at the term yeah, yeah, the vibration, yeah, the big bang, so to speak, yeah, the vibration that sits underneath or within existence, vibration that sits under everything. See the term you see that term in there again. So, yeah, and remember when we put it, listen, this thing is so heavy and deep. Look, when you add the word to a word in Sabaic, what happens to it? You add the word or previously to it, what happens to it? Yeah, put it in the chat. Anybody knows? Yeah, what happens to it? I'm going to switch just for a second. Just bear with me. Any answers in the chat? Any responses? Right,
I haven't seen any as yet.
Don't be scared. Guess. Let's see. No comments in the chat. No one wants to brave enough to put their self forward.
No, I haven't seen any.
Excuse me. Yeah. So.
Oh, hold on a minute. We have here, it denotes a or an.
Thank you. Yeah. So when we put the so remember or an, M or as well for mother. But when we put it, it means a. Yes, a this or a that. Do you understand? So if I let's think of a word. I don't know. Let's say someone says hatum, and someone might say a house, for example. Yeah. So you're saying hat is word for house. Let's say, and you put the against. You say hatum. You're saying a house. Yeah. So obviously here, the A. But look, what was the symbol for vulva? It was the letter V, correct? Yeah, for vagina, vulva, etc. But if a woman wants to produce asexually, parthenogenesis, what's the process? Well, she has two glands either side of the vaginal orifice. Do you understand? Which they call bulbo. There's another term for it. My mind's messed up today. Bartholin, thank you. Bartholin gland. Yeah, thank you, subconscious memory. Bartholin gland. Either side of the vaginal orifice, and at one time it secreted, and even today for women who still produce asexually, it produced a what? A seminal type fluid that was able to fertilize her own eggs. So if you cross and join those two together, what symbol do we get? We get the A symbol, correct? We get the A. You understand? So tying back to the woman. So the first point, the first letter of that alphabet, asexual. They say asexual. The master teacher was explaining it should not be asexual, it should be F-sexual. You understand? But when we put that A there, overstood, reverse it, we get the other symbol for sexual reproduction, which they use, which is tying into that, as I say, Bartholin gland, we get our A. You understand? So there, the or M, you understand, which they're using for mother, and then when we put it in front of a word, you understand, you see the tie in there, it still ties back to the source, still ties back to the woman who can produce another female child, obviously, but not another male, because she doesn't have a defective Y chromosome to base the copy on. You understand? So, and that's original reproduction is F-sexual. Do you understand? Yep. And then obviously later down the line, artificial, the races obviously were split out, or man was taken out of woman, and the races were split out into two obviously genders, you understand, both coming out of hermaphrodite and hermaphrodites. This is where we started off as neutral gender beings, then into uni gender beings, either as male or female, and then so that process then had to be brought together to produce reproduction, or male reproduction. Obviously female reproduction achieved same way, but obviously the woman has the ability independently to do it on her own. Like many other life forms, Komodo dragon, hammerhead sharks, etc. It's a trait within the animal kingdom, which human beings have had, but obviously forgot about it. Yeah. So let's switch back to where we were. Any questions on that?
Yes, there are. We have a question from Patsy, and she asks, please explain how devil and God are one. What about the evils that go on? Are you saying the same being commits them?
Well, as we showed you last week in if we go back, for example, it was Malachi chapter 1. Let's get Malachi chapter 1. Verse, I think it's the last verse in Malachi chapter 1. Last week, verse 17. Yeah, it says, ye have wearied the Lord with your words. Yet ye say, wherein have we wearied him? When ye say, everyone that doeth evil is good in the sight of the Lord, and he delighteth in them, or where is the God of judgment? So, according to these priests, you understand, these Levitical priests, which is what he's talking about here, everyone that doeth evil is what? Good in the sight of the Lord. So the perception is that God is good, but then when you look at the actions, remember, intention and action supposed to match up with each other. We said that earlier in terms of our definition of perfection. God is doing a lot of, or the Lord is doing a lot of negative stuff. I'm responsible for negativity. He created hatred in Genesis chapter 3 verse 15. he put hatred, between the serpent, which when we played in the last class, the serpent is not a serpent, you understand? Yeah, the word they use there is nachash, it means to whisper. Yeah, so you're talking about a man. Yeah, because human beings are reptiles. So you're talking about a man and a woman having a conversation. God put hatred between them. Enmity they use in enmity. Yeah, hatred. That's what it means. Which is responsible for all the isms that we see today. Racism, sexism, all the different isms arising from this so-called incident. Unproven story, by the way. You understand? So God is setting up situations where he can be the hero. You understand? So, as I say, unless you understand the context, they're one and the same being. Yeah, this is why when you look up they show you the symbol of my memory's pants today, but basically the symbol, his name's left me for a second, but you know the symbol I'm talking about, with the it has a dual face on the same head. Yeah, one is smiling, one is sad. You understand? The name's gone out of my head for a second. Anybody knows, just help me out there. So, the dual face, and that's what it's expressing here. Because what most don't know is that obviously, like in England, you have the House of Lords. Well, there's House of Lords that sit on one side, Labour. There's House of Lords that sit on another side, the Conservative. There's Liberal Democrats. So, but they're all called Lord. Yeah, so they got different agendas, different faces, so to speak, you understand, in the House of Lords. Now, if you don't understand that the term Lord can be used for multiple different beings, and actually the people of the Bible were getting confused between these different gods or extraterrestrials, then their understanding of God as a singular, you understand, a one, you understand, monotheistic religion, is one God concept, then who they are calling the devil, you understand, and who they are calling God is one and the same. You understand? How many books in the Bible? I think you taught this before. How many books in the Bible? And what's the number of the devil? The number of the devil, according to them, is 666, correct? How many books in the Bible? Anybody, put it in the chat. How many books in the Bible? Give it a few minutes. Shout out, all right, Nabab, Jennifer, tap please.
Yes, someone that, let's see, Ravana's put 66.
All right, appreciate that. Thank you. I see someone put in the chat. Janus, appreciate that.
Yeah,
Janus is the being with the two faces. Yeah, smiling, and also thinks it pertains back to the two brothers, Enki and Enlil. You understand? Who were as I say, Enki being the Lord God of the earth, Enlil being the Lord God of the skies. You understand? And the two brothers, or the conflict between the two brothers, which finds itself into their Bible. However, 66, correct? But the original Bible had how much? 72. 72 take away 66 is how much? So there you get your third 6. You understand? Who taught the world about the devil? If you'd never picked up a Bible, Quran, whatever, the Torah, these books, we wouldn't know about no devil. They taught the world about the devil. They promote the devil's doctrine. Constantly in Islam, they're constantly calling the devil's name. They're the ones promote, because as soon as you think God, you think, the word association, you think the devil. So it's a concept that came out of their book. They're the ones who are promoting the devil's doctrine. You understand? Human beings, this is what I'm saying to you. Now, what did you have the concept of sin before you read about it in the book? I'm not saying people didn't do evil acts without a book, but it's training. You're being trained as a you. If someone gives you all these Bible stories, you're being trained as a you or a young person or whatever, or as a kid, if you're reading all these Bible stories, well, what do you learn about first? You learn about killing somebody, the first murder. You learn about rape. You learn about all these negative acts in the very book that's supposed to be the good book that you're reading. That's what it's teaching you. Now, somebody say, well, no, it's teaching you as an example to so that for you not to do it because there's consequences or fear of the Lord or whatever the case may be. But I'll tell you not to do something. The brain ignores the not. So I'm teaching you also how to do something. You understand? So how much influence has the book had in the world that we see today? Because if human beings internalize in all these stories, remember it's at one time, and if it still is, the most popular book on the planet. So the mental power of human beings in terms of their imagination and their collective imagination has the power, as it's shown, I think, in the book Who Lived Before the Adam and Eve story. Certain groups of extraterrestrials are interested in human beings' collective mind power because they have the ability collectively to shape environments. So you think somebody didn't understand this? Yeah, it's called a scripture for a reason. And what script is being played out? So the Bible and the Quran, all these different books, the world that we see in front of us is the very world that is in the words between the pages in the book. You understand? So, hey, that's one of the biggest tricks. You understand? Yeah, of hiding who God really is. Yeah, the devil and God is one and the same, and religion teaches the devil's doctrine. They promote the devil. Yeah, they promote by keeping his name alive. Yeah, this so-called creature. You understand? Not knowing who is the God and who is the devil. Well, really and truly, yeah, it's nothing but the Caucasian man. That's the big trick, isn't it? Yeah, convincing the world that the devil doesn't exist. Yeah, it's a man. It's the number of a man. 666 is the number of a man. Because when you think of God, they drew all the images now. They drew the images and put the images out there of who's who. You understand? Remember, in Isaiah 14 verse 12, you understand? Yeah, Lucifer is the bright morning star. Yeah, Revelation chapter 22 verse 16, who is Jesus, also called the bright morning star. Yeah, these are the facts that people don't want to say because your reality is you've been trained. You can't let go of this Bible. You can't let go of this Quran. You can't let go of the Torah. Why? Why can't you let go of it? Think about that. How we've been programmed. What, divinity only aligns with those books? If you're Chinese, if you have to work with a Bible? If you're Dravidian, do you work with a Bible? Or have you got your own books pertaining to your story? These are the tools of the devil. These are the tools of the spell. Why black people who have been around for millions of years seemingly can't let go of these books. I'm not saying you, the person who asked the question. I'm speaking generally. You understand? Can't let go of these books. Reality must be tied into some of these books. Not for everybody, but for a lot of our people. Otherwise, they don't see it as real. You understand? And so the psychology of it is deep. So I think I used it on before. When we used to sell books like the Holy Tablets, for example, because the Holy Tablets, the way it's framed, it's in the book with the hard cover with those, the kind of thin, crispy pages. Yeah, like scripture, associated to scripture. But you can give us the person the same sacredness, let's say, in a Partarak. But the Partarak is in a normal book with a cardboard cover. It doesn't have the the thin crispy pages or whatever. A person will perceive the Holy Tablet as more holy than the Partarak. They see it as more holy because of the way the book has been packaged. Not the content, but the way it's been packaged. That is deep. The spell of that is deep. Yeah, because the Egyptians that use no Christmas date, we put things on stone, right, on walls and things of that, on papyrus. So what is the biblical context of the way the scripture looks makes it holy? This is how deep the spell is that's entrenched. Do you understand? But as I say, Master Teacher's done an excellent job. Yeah, listen, we can't be fooled no more. Yeah, we've uncovered this extraterrestrial menu book, which is what it is. You understand? And what rapture to us is not the same as what it means rapture to them. Rapture to them ties into raptor. You understand? And so, you know, we may not think that, or, well, extraterrestrials see human beings for food. Well, as it was said, I think, in the last class, you understand? How do chickens feel about us? You understand? Or how did we feel about dinosaurs when, you understand, when they were around? You understand? We ate human beings for, you know, for a snack. You understand? So just because you think it's not there and it's not real doesn't mean it's not. It's outside of your circumference of knowledge doesn't mean it's not real. You understand? I'm not saying you must believe it because we're saying it. I'm saying look in front of your own eyes. Yeah, the Master Teacher constantly pointing out quotes after quotes on a book, even that we feel we've mastered, and pulls stuff like this right out the bag. Yeah. So what they do now is that they try and change in the English, yeah, to make it seem more palatable, or put things in brackets and say, well, what that word really means is this, but you can't really run away from it. You understand? The food for the God doctrine is right there. Now, how come we didn't see it? All this study from 1970 down to the year 2000, no one pointed this bit out. So Masters flipped it and just said, hey, look at this. You understand? So yeah, your devil and God are one the same. Look at their behavior. Look at the actions, not their intentions. Look at the actions. Jealousy. Look at the characteristics. Intimidation. You understand? Lacking of power in certain instances. Understood? Yeah. All these attributes that he's egotistical. You understand? Egotistical. No one worship no other God apart from me. Why? Question is why? You understand? And if you were that powerful, how come you didn't have the power to stop human beings from choosing other gods? Yeah, so how it's been delivered to you or the world, let's say, and what the true kind of meaning behind it is unfortunately two different things. You understand? And if you think you can trust those who translated the book, those who manufactured and put it out there, do you understand? They don't believe in none of that books. And in Masonry or Euro Masonry, even into other types or whatever, the way they read the Bible is not the same way you read the Bible. So yeah, a person even reading the Bible today is 3 steps from a translation point of view. They're 3 steps away from the truth, and then from a symbolism point of view, they're away from the truth because you don't know how it's being read. You don't know that Abraham, for example, is not Abraham, it's Abraham. They're 3 different attributes of 3 different beings or 3 different cultures. Yeah, Isaiah chapter 19, take a look. They're combining names. So how you're reading these stories and what they say pertain to mean, it's completely different things until you get into some of these classes and you get a student teacher breaking down what the master teacher has obviously opened our eyes to see once again.
There's a question actually referring to the very topic you're talking about, and it says, then what's the point of any of this? If God is the devil, evil will always be here then.
Well, this is my point. This is the point I'm making. Why is everything framed around the Bible? Why? Why is it framed around those terms? The word God only exists. It's a modern word. It's a German word. Are you German? Have the Germans been around for millions of years? No, they haven't. It's a modern word. So everything doesn't frame around the Bible. You understand? We've done whole classes not mention those books at all. Not once. They use it for comparative studies in terms of theology, but the world doesn't start with their terminology or termination of things. So we say, what's the point? Well, the point is life. The point is existence. The point is to be. That's the point. And maintain existence. That doesn't mean the Bible must be part of somebody's life. The Sans people who are who the human beings that we all descend from on this planet today, do they have a Bible and a Quran? They were here before those books were even around. So the life journey or existence or our ascension journey has nothing to do with those books. They don't exist even in Africa other than what Europeans brought over there. You understand? So that's the thing that one has to think, that the definitions given by these books of divinity, of evil, whatever the case may be, that this is where that this gives us purpose. This gives us the methodology to overcome. No, it doesn't. Let's go back to the source of where we came from, our stuff. Dealing with our spiritual science. Wu-Sabat. Religion is not our, Christianity is not our spiritual science. Nor is Islam, nor is Judaism. These are not our spiritual sciences. They are offshoots of the Sumerian doctrine, out of the Sumerian tablets. So this is the research that, you know, if you're still caught in that mindset, then you need to go and read books, do your own research, go and read books like the Gilgamesh epics, the Enuma Elish. Then you'll see, well, hold on a minute, they've got a flood story. Do you understand? There's another version of this creation story. It looks very similar to the Bible, but it's older than these biblical stories and tales. You understand? To start to do that uncovering, because until you can, now we're obviously using the word God for translation purposes. Do you understand? I said the Sabat word Muqdad. You understand? Or Gadad or Muqdad. You understand? As a translation. But God, when it's talking about gods, it's talking about beings like us. It's not talking about the ultimate source or whatever of all existence. We explained it. Ba'ut, existence, the all expanding. God, Most High, all these different terminologies and titles sit within that. It's not some one being that's sitting there controlling everything. You understand? And so the characteristics of divinity, if you want to find them, you must look in the mirror. Because the same titles that you use, name a title, Most High. Okay, well, the highest thing in the sky to certain human beings of a certain age was the sun at noon. So that's the Most High. The highest thing in the sky, that's the Most High. Creator. Do you not create if you have children? Have you not created a being in your image and after likeness? You've got with a woman, or a woman's got with you, and you've produced a child, a son or a daughter. Are you not the creator to that child with a definite article? Both. Is the mother of that child not the creator of that child? And we see many instances where women cannot produce children. So it doesn't happen for everybody. It's not just a thing, but it's inherently within you by design. So what term are we using for when we look up these words for what we're pertaining to this divine, that those attributes don't pertain to you? And you have the ability to give life, and you have the ability to do what? Take life. You understand? So, yeah, obviously, when we see the stories or these biblical stories trying to make sense, we're not coming from one source. Well, we're not coming from one source. Or on the planet, I should say, it's not coming from one source, of life. It is, pertaining to how it started, but different groups of extraterrestrials have come along, tampered with the original recipe, and produced a being in their image and after their likeness. So we have conflicts, do you understand, arising from different agendas. We have conflicts arising from different genetics and genes. You understand? As it relates to this particular planet. And the Bible neither the Quran offers no meaningful explanation for all of existence. You understand? It pertains to a certain, as I say, evolution or growth of life as it relates to this planet. You understand? There's 100 million stars in the Milky Way alone. So how many other planets are there with life on pertaining to which the Bible can't even deal with their stories? Let's keep it 100. Let's keep it 100. Yeah, it's dumbed us down. Yeah, it's dumbed us down, made us stupid, made us ignorant. Yeah, and the only way to get rid of it is to be able to have the power to throw those books in the bin. You understand? Because their idea of divinity is not what is there in reality. Your own body, your own way of life proves that. Yeah, as we explained earlier, this as a female, well, I've never seen a man give birth yet. As much as they might try, you understand, the trans movement and all that, we have not seen it yet. Womb transplant, you understand, all these kind of things. Yeah, nature hasn't gifted that, so we've not seen it in relation to their stories, the way they've given it. Do you understand? It's one off, and even Jesus himself, as I say. Yeah, the top guy, yeah, was born through the womb of a woman. So God has a mother. You understand? Yeah. So the book is designed to confuse. The word Bible, phonetically, and the word Babel that they use for the Tower of Babel, which means confusion, was designed to confuse. It's a collaboration or an amalgamation of different tablets, different books, different calendars put together, designed to confuse the mind of human beings for the purposes of control. Yes, and keep you in that state of faith and belief, never actual facts. Any other questions?
Yes, there is a continuation of the question from the same person. I'm confused. Then who are we? I thought we are gods.
So, because you're using the word God, you understand that the word God ties you in, and we use word God in English, but you have to know what you're talking about. Remember, if I speak in Sabaik, we're going to say the word Nathar. Yeah, and so the symbol for a Nathar, for example, yeah, an individual Nathar would be a single one of these flags. That's got nothing to do with the Bible. Yeah, nor has its definition got anything to do with the Bible or a Quran, you understand, or the Torah for that matter. Yeah, when we use the term God, it means an individual is in control of something or someone. You understand? So the point is that as individuals, we're supposed to be in control of our own circumstances. You understand? We are the ones ultimately making the decisions. You understand? And a deity, yeah, if we use that term for us, to us is a being who has mastered the physical and mastered the spiritual. So they are 360 degrees of the spiritual, 360 degrees of the physical, which makes them 720 degrees. They are whole again, a holistic being. You understand? So the fact of the matter is, that's what God means to us. You understand? Well, in terms of the context of us being gods, that's our definition. You understand? Relating to the nine, your nine mind. You understand? Nine knowledge, nine reasoning. Yeah, your mind is fully aware, fully active. Our connection to our ancestors, our connection to the mental is restored. We are who we are supposed to be, not imitating or in the image and likeness or imitating any other race on the planet. We're unique. You understand? So all those elements are aligned. Are we in that state now, environmentally and individually? No. So we have to work towards it, whether we achieve it in this generation or others. You understand? Totally unique being, totally unique culture. You understand? And none of that, as I say, if you were joining today, let's say for example, would you need a Bible or a Quran? No, it's just used for, hey, well, this is out there, That's what that meant. Listen, this is how the game got played against us for those who need it. But it's not something that it's at a certain point you have to dash it away, because us as ancient Egyptians, our ancestors, they know nothing about no Bible. They know nothing about no Bible or Quran or Torah or even the term God for that term as a German term. And even then, what is the G? We just explained to you about the G, yeah, in the center of the compass and the square. That G is also God. What does it symbolize? The 7th letter of the alphabet. You understand? The G. Okay, well, what is a G? Now let's just draw it so we can see. Yeah. Okay. Let's. Yeah. Boom. Oh. See my screen? Yeah.
I can.
So if I take that G, the way they draw it like that, isn't it? That is nothing but a circle in the sun. Yeah. The circle and the square. Yeah. That is your G. What does a circle represent? 360 degrees. What's a square? 360 degrees, correct? Yeah, 490 angular corners. 360 degrees. You understand? Yeah, making 720 degrees, making us whole again. What does it relate to? Female. Male. So the G of God, you understand, is male and female coming together. The progenitors of life. Yeah, how growth works within existence. Yeah, everything goes back to mind, and we are mental beings, or have the link to the mental by way of our soul. Or excuse me, the art is what makes the link, but our soul is what has that connection. All beings on the planet do not have soul. Yeah, but in order to be in control, you have to be living in your image and after your likeness of your ancestors, not in somebody else's likeness, not with somebody else's books, not speaking somebody else's language, not wearing clothes that somebody else designed. Who said a suit and tie is what should be the robes of divinity? You understand? What a pastor wears or whatever. You understand? Who are these ideas? When you put on a tie, what is it? What is a tie really symbolizing? Look at it more closely now. Is that not the same, you understand, set of gonads and penis that you're wearing around your neck? Isn't that what it looks like? So the same things, the sex organs, I think there's a class by the master teacher, not I think, there is a class by the master teacher. They worship our sex organs. It all goes back to the progenitors of the life. That is what you're talking about when you really mean God or deity. But in our case, we facilitate, we facilitate life. And we represent existence. Understand? Within, understand? There's no outside of that. There's no outside of existence. You understand? So being that we are linked to the source of all things, that makes us supreme beings as the active part of that which is supreme. You understand? So we have that link. So that's our journey. Our journey is not, and that's not by way of no Bible or Quran. Those were necessary because that was what poisoned our minds. So therefore, in order for the master teacher to apply the antidote, the doctor had to use a little bit of the poison in order to correct or cure the problem. You understand? So our immune system, i.e. our mental, our nine mind, would kick in. Do you understand? And as I say, that being has the ability to turn that which is bad information and make it good information, understand, for the purpose of, say, providing a cure. But at a certain point, you have to leave that stuff behind. You understand? You have to leave it behind. because there's no overstanding in those books. There's only understanding when the master now has uncovered the truth that's within the very book. So you're dealing with the poison, you're dealing with the spell, you're dealing with how the game was played. You're not dealing with the real true pathway and cure of how you transform, you understand, to use 100% of your brain on both sides of it, you understand, not just an amount based on the knowledge and information that he has taught us. And we can't fully become who we are, even speaking English, because certain tones within our language activate or reactivate certain centers in the brain. You understand? Making us and saying there's certain things to say which our glands, liquid gold being one of them, is used to secrete that don't no longer secrete. So we have one of our endocrinal glands missing, called the barothry gland, which used to secrete liquid gold into our bloodstream. So we are incomplete beings. That is our pathway to God. I don't know about anything else other than that, and that's what we're teaching here, and our purpose. Realign ourselves, first page, holy tablets. I mean, we've forgotten the original ways of the universe, forgotten. Understand? Yeah. So we have to, once it's restored again, now we have to work to put ourselves back in the position of deity once again for our people and ourselves. Any other questions?
Yes. Question from Patsy. I'm not referring to the Bible when I use the term God or devil. I'm trying to establish where evil comes from and is. Can you explain this?
So evil comes from 17,250,000 years ago. Evil came to this planet by way of a comet that hit this planet and brought the forces referred to as six ether, which causes things to decay and destroy, brought those forces here. That was the start of evil on this planet. Yeah, so the force that caused things to decay, yeah, or lead to death. Prior to that, energies upon this planet were dealing with 9 ether. Like you have an evergreen tree, for example. An evergreen tree does not go through the cycles of decline and then extreme growth like as your 4 seasons. So a transformation happened here, you understand? And what does evil mean? Evil just means to us anything that disturbs your definition of peace. Yeah, so the moment that peace was not sustainable, this was the formulation of evil here, when other forces or foreign forces came to this planet as it relates to us and our existence here. Any other questions?
No other questions.
Okay, well, we started late and we ran over a bit late. So, we'll continue this discussion next Sunday. Good amount of questions today, showing people are paying attention, so that's excellent. Join us next Sunday, same time, from 1 o'clock, probably for a 1:30, 1:15 start, and then we'll continue this discussion. So we've got a few more things we want to go through pertaining to this subject area. So if there's nothing else, let's just see, just bear with me. Next class next week. Want more information about who we are? UnitedSabiansWorldwide.com. A lot of resources and things of that nature. If you want to join as a member, information's on the site as well. And then our YouTube channel for these classes, we'll seek to get the last class and this one out this week. If you want to go over anything, but if not, the live version obviously is always on our Facebook page. In All Eyes in Egypt, Midlands and the North, which you can check out that page as well. And all our previous classes, the live versions are on there, but obviously the edited ones go on YouTube. So if there is nothing else, thank you for attending today. Have a great evening, and we'll pick this up in 7 days' time. Much appreciated, everybody. Take care.